the source. Aaron Smith, the rapping professor. Young Jordan on the board, and it's a beautiful day. Let's get this show started. Get on our way. Summer of Freedom Virtual Neighborhood Love Tour 2020. Woo! I'm about to say August. I read August. I'm about to say, you know you tripping when you about to say August is August. Yeah, my tongue is in an entanglement. Let's get this thing started. Eli and Lou Bevins, Eli Lou Entertainment. Hopefully I put some respect on your name. Say hello to the family for me. But let me do this bio right. I'm gonna bring y'all up. Let me get my bio voice right. Okay. Twin sisters, Eli and Lou Bevins, founders of Eli Lou Entertainment, were raised by their grandparents in West Philadelphia. The sisters began writing stories and poetry in elementary school and first discovered the art of screenwriting in the 11th grade at Overbrook High in West Philadelphia. While attending ECSU for BS degrees in computer science and as graduate students at Indiana University in Bloomington, Indiana for STEM, Eli and Lou continued their filmmaking aspirations, winning multiple film awards. I'm going to stop right there because I have them actually on the line. Welcome to the program, sisters, ladies, women, actresses, superstars, educated. How y'all doing?
We are good. Thank you so much for that introduction.
Well, I know, I got a connection with the family, so I'm halfway honorary since I have so much support. No, tell everybody I said hello.
Will do.
For the people who are being reintroduced or being introduced to you both, beyond the bio, talk to us a little bit about what you're up to now and what you've done that they might be aware of but might not be aware that it's attached to you.
Right. So I'm glad that you asked that. Actually, this weekend we're premiering a virtual show called I Got the Mic. It's a poetry jam mixed with some music and African flares. And, we're executive producers on a project with Miss Tina Knowles Lawson and Richard Lawson in Waco Theater Center out in Los Angeles, California. And we're producing this with Eli Lou Entertainment, our company, in association with Richard Lawson Studios, Waco Theater Center. And it's a really cool, poetic experience virtual show that we're working on that will premiere on Waco Theater Center's Facebook page August 22nd, 8/7 Central.
Now, did you say Tina Knowles Lawson?
Yes.
I mean, is there more than one? Let me just make sure I'm still on that. I'm sorry. I know I'm 3 or 4 sentences behind, but VT, like she get it from Tina. Like, is that the Tina we talking?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so if Black is king, then Eli Lou is queen. Shouts out to connecting, networking, and getting things popping. So for social media, website information, one more time, just let us know where we can take part and view, that new project.
Right. So it's going to view on Waco Theater Center's Facebook page, and that's WACO, as in Where Art Can Occur. It's the name of the theater center in Los Angeles. But it'll tune live right on their Facebook page. We'll have it on our website, Eli Lou Entertainment, so you can take you right to where you can view it. It's a really cool virtual project that we're filming here in Philly. They're filming in LA. We're touching down in Ghana. We have people in Seattle, so it's going to pretty much be a global show. London, yeah, it's a global show.
Wow. Now, how is the transition? We talk to a lot of people doing a lot of different things, but I haven't had the opportunity to talk to people in your line of work to discuss what that maybe was like in terms of the virtual shift, with the COVID crisis. Right. What is the differences? How are people adapting? And what is maybe some advice you can give to some people who are interested in the arts that, might be dismayed or want to figure out ways to navigate?
Right. So it's a major shift. I mean, you can't have as many people as you need on set. We're working with much smaller crews, but I guess the blessing to it all is that we are able to do things virtually, and we're able to expand our teams. We have team members in Los Angeles, Atlanta, Seattle. We're here in Philly, so that's kind of been the beautiful part. The challenge has been figuring that out, but there's a lot of platforms out there where you have to make the platforms work for you, right? So that's kind of what we've been doing, and I think this challenge all of the creatives out there to just think differently, think outside of the box. How can you get something to work? Partnering with different companies and organizations that you haven't from before. Again, like we said, this is a virtual show where we have people from Ghana and London. It's so beautiful to see, so many different types of literature work from around the globe. And if it wasn't for, being forced to try something new. And we're all uncomfortable. You know, you have to get uncomfortable sometimes in order to achieve some things that you never thought could be possible. So we've kind of been making that shift. Our teams and crews are a lot smaller, so people are wearing multiple hats. But I think that's making our team stronger because now we're stronger in different areas that we weren't before. You know, with wearing dual hats. So Lou, I don't know if you wanted to add to that, or did I? I got it.
Yeah, you pretty much covered that.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of being twins, huh?
Yeah, I just let her go, and then I'm gonna
Yeah. I like the P Diddy. I like that. Now, in terms of wearing multiple hats, though, even in the bio, I was amazed, you know, about the love of screenwriting in the 11th grade. Oftentimes, you know, people try to, I guess, condition us to go into these entry-level positions and have this mentality where we have to, you know, take a certain route. They'll label it things like paying dues, but a lot of times it deals with, you know, not having the same degree of agency and control. What is it in your upbringing that even gave you the impetus to not only have a passion, but to have the wherewithal to apply that passion so early? Because people would say that you all, you know, are young to be wearing all the hats that you're wearing in terms of, you know, being the founders of an entertainment company and things like that. So just talk to some of the people who might have that creative bug in them, but maybe not the confidence or the understanding that they can, you know, be in charge.
Right. So, you know, in the initial stages, much of it was actually like that silly hustling mentality, always, you know, trying to figure it out and make it to, you know, we don't have backgrounds in a lot of things in the filmmaking side of things, but we do in tech. So, you know, merging those fields, but just we were always writers. And then that merged into other things. One of the things we learned really early on, we would go to events and all we would have was a business card and nothing to show for it, but we knew we were talented. So we started creating our own work. And I think a lot of filmmakers think they need X, Y, Z to, you know, achieve certain things. And really the first step is just getting started, you know, have something to show for and jump in. Right. And to add to that, at Overbrook High School, we had a film club that was ran by Miss Sherry Thomas. She was a neighborhood, you know, individual. Out of the kindness of her heart, she would come up there and, you know, she would bring her own food and snacks. But we never had equipment, right? And we never had the support that we needed for that program to really take off. But I think that gave us a more, we just had the drive for it. We didn't learn screenwriting through books. What we did was she would bring in these scripts, and we were amazed by the scripts. I think the first one was The Fresh Prince. It was, you know, we looked at TV scripts. So we learned screenwriting just from looking at scripts. You know, at the time, we didn't have a computer in the home. It's not like we had internet on our phones. Yeah, we didn't have phones in high school. So it was really just looking at the scripts and studying how they wrote it versus looking at a book. And so we just became more, you know, when you don't have something, you fight harder for it. And that would be a goal, you know, maybe some years from now, but that will always be our goal to reach back to the community and get that going. There's a lot of creators out here.
Now, in terms of the screenplays, a lot of people probably wouldn't even realize how this stuff is accessible online, right?
Yes. Yeah. The internet is amazing. Even, you know, the opportunity we had to even work with Richard Lawson and Miss Tina Knows Lawson came, you know, initially was a Facebook message, you know, 6 years ago when we were in grad school. And I think...
Wait, what kind of message is this? I need to wait. Hold on. I'm getting pen and paper. A lot of people trying to contact Beyonce out here. So what? Who said what to who?
Well, it was actually I had an opportunity to, and this is funny because we were in tech, but we had a project where we had to redesign a website. So we had reached out, trying to relate everything, even though we were in tech, back to our passion. I said reach out to Richard Lawson Studios because they had classes or whatever. But we were able to redesign his website, and that kind of started everything.
So you just offered your STEM services?
Yes.
Wow. No, that's leveraging some gifts. That's leveraging some gifts. Because a lot of people think in terms of money all the time, and they don't realize how much they can gain just through that type of bartering and how their gifts could put them in front of kings. This is amazing.
Yeah, definitely. We tell people all the time that even, you know, volunteer work, because after that was done, we asked if we can volunteer, and then it grew for the nonprofit.
Oh, y'all was Philly hustling for real. So after you finish the work, you say, well, you need anything, you know. We do work for free sometimes. So and people don't see that part.
Right. It's networking, and people do this all the time. And I think, we've been through this a lot where
people just network wrong. Sometimes it's not about what you can get out of other people. It's always what you can do for the other person, and then knowing your value and your worth. Even other companies in the city that we've reached out to do projects with. And it's just building relationships. It's more so, again, this is a nonprofit. We also do nonprofit work with the Mill Creek Community Partnership here in the city. So, being able to reach out and seeing that, at Waco in Los Angeles, they work with, disadvantaged youth to teach them how to do, film, whether it's, being a DJ, whether it's art. Because that's a field that people always tell you when you're younger. You asked this question earlier. People try to tear you away from that. They say art can't get you anywhere. And even though we went to college and grad school for STEM, those were all the things people told us. And people were so upset when they found out I wanted to go to school for art. And so I kind of let that get to me. But I'm actually glad that God took us through that path, because if it wasn't for our tech background, we wouldn't be where we are right now. Right? The tech background, being able to design your own graphics, your own website, your own mobile app if you wanted to. There's a lot of things and blessings that came out of going that path.
Now, how is it navigating that pressure, though? Because oftentimes that pressure comes from people who want the best for you, who love you, and sometimes we pay your bills in college. So just talk a little bit about, how that balance is to really be yourself and pursue your dreams, but also, to honor and respect that other people might not be pressuring you, out of hatred, but out of love.
Yeah, it's a weird space to be in, because you know it's out of love and it's out of care, but at the end of the day, the happiness that you get is going to come from you, and that can't be given to you by, someone telling you to take a certain route. 'Cause initially, we never walked away from our passion. Everywhere we went, when we were in college for computer science and a minor in aviation, but we did stage plays. So people would be on campus thinking we were in multimedia or film degrees, and it was completely opposite. So I would encourage people, even if you did take another path, that, you don't have to stick to one thing. The one thing we really got good at was time management. And, the ability to do all these different things and still be in school for STEM. So I would say, don't let people tear you away from, because you're going to always want to go back to it regardless. Right. And just, if you do kind of get off, from the path that you're on, just,
getting out of that mindset that you can't do more than one thing, because that was the thing that kept happening. It was a common thread from from undergrad to grad school, where people would say, why are you doing stage plays? Why are you writing stories? Why don't you just stick to STEM? And I'm just like, that's my passion. I can't. I would literally finish all of my homework assignments early just so I can write a script.
Wow.
Be creative. And that's actually what helped me get through college. And other people didn't understand that. Whether I was sitting on a play or not, I was still going to write a script.
That's dope. So now, if you're just tuning in, this is the Summer Freedom Virtual Neighborhood Love Tour. I'm speaking with Eli and Lou Bevins from Eli Lou Entertainment. Just give them the website before I ask my final question, because I want people to make sure that they can log on and get all the social media access.
Yes. So Eli Lou Entertainment is EliLouEnt.com. And if you're looking for the I Got the Mic Poetic Experience airing August 22nd this weekend, you can visit WacoTheaterCenter.com.
And what was the name of the play that I was able to see last time?
Thank you so much for coming out and kicking it with us. It was called Broken Tables.
Broken Tables. Yeah, that was a beautiful event. And I was really impressed. People always talk about how Philly doesn't support Philly, and Philly came out, and Philly showed love, and Philly was supporting. And I think it's just about Philly standards. Philly likes to see you grind and be sincere and serious and really be about your craft, and they'll get behind you. They just won't get behind anything. I think that's what people get it twisted. They think it's just a hard city to impress. But, if you're doing what you're supposed to do, and treating people right, I think that's a big deal. The fact that, you all have conducted yourself a certain way despite the way that the industry is established is going to mean a lot for longevity and the ways that you've been blessed.
Yes, yes. Couldn't agree more. You said it perfectly.
Well, but that makes me think about something that's vital in our community right now, and even your bio when I read that you were raised by your grandparents.
Right.
Now, I noticed, you notice that people are beautiful, but you notice when people are actually beautiful on the inside. And I was like, wow, y'all were really refined. Y'all were professional. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's almost a difference. People can almost say, you might have been raised by your grandparents. You got you got home training, home training. So, but talk to us a little bit about having the blessing and the benefit, although, there might be a void there in some regards, but talk to us about the blessing of having that kind of mother wit, that kind of tradition, that kind of old school, understanding of self-respect and what's possible for you, because a lot of this has been lost within a generation, and a lot of people your age and younger don't seem to have that connection either with their grandparents or with those traditions in a way they've been able to achieve the way you two have. So you could just talk briefly about that in closing. I'd appreciate it.
Right. Yeah, so, growing up with our grandparents, of course, raising 4 grandkids is not easy. It wasn't easy. And you had that generational gap. But I think the blessing that came out of it was that wisdom. And then not having certain things. We learned that, as kids, people would make jokes at our clothes and whatnot. But sometimes my grandma would make a skirt. Or our grandfather, we didn't buy checkerboards from the store. He would make it in the basement out of wood. So all of those things growing up that we learned from them, because they didn't grow with the luxuries that we have today. My grandmother talks about going to the bathroom in a shed that wasn't even attached to a house. So,
wow. Where did she grow up?
She was born in Aiken, South Carolina, and she was the last group to migrate up with her family up here.
Don't it feel like everybody's from South Carolina? No, but go ahead, continue. I'm sorry.
No, it does seem that way. We're all related somehow. But yeah, so to hear those stories, and when we were growing up, we never cared about the material things. We started being creative because of it. Instead of being mad at the situation at home where we didn't have something, we started just being creative. We make our own dolls with our aunt. Our aunt was very creative as well. So, as a child, you're angry at those things, right, because you're getting joked on and teased. But now as an adult, at 30, I'm just like, wow, all of those things are preparing us for how creative we had to be with film, right? Not having film is expensive, and you don't have certain things. You make it work. And we got all of that, I would say, from my grandparents and the village that raised us. There's a lot of people that tapped into us in our creativity when we were younger. So I think that's the blessing in the storm, at the end of the day. Wow.
And I know a lot of times, especially with this the Twitter and Facebook, TikTok generation, there's so much narcissism, and people are so into, the filters and how they look. But can you give us one lesson that maybe your grandmother taught you both about the importance of putting your brains and your personality above beauty? Because that's something that I think a lot of young girls need to understand right now.
Yeah, a lot of it was we were, grounded in our work, and because our focus was always on, education, or we stayed in a lot of programs when we were younger. And a lot of it wasn't forced upon us. It was, once you saw that opportunity, our grandfather actually had passed away when we were 14 of lung cancer. Unfortunately, we were actually in the house when it happened, and she just was like, "You guys got to keep going." And I was our only father figure. But just that, having that, where you got to keep going, you got to keep pushing, and just knowing that everything you do is for that sacrifice that they made for us in raising us. But it was just instilled in us that, you're more than your looks, you're more than what anybody else says about you, but, just understanding your value at a young age, I think was something we definitely got from her.
Thank you both so much. One more time, just give that website information so the people can know I'm talking with Eli and Lou Bevins of Eli Lou Entertainment. One more time, give them the website.
Yes, so you can visit Eli Lou Entertainment at EliLouInt.com if you're looking for the I Got the Mic Experience, Poetic Experience that's airing August 22nd on the Waco Theater Center's Facebook page. You can visit WacoTheaterCenter.com.
Consummate professionals, I wish you all the best. Can't wait till you blow up. I'm going to save these tapes and say, I knew them. Tell the family I said hello. Take care, y'all.
Well, so much. Talk to you soon.
Much love, much respect. Black Girl Magic for real, and you are learning with Word, y'all.
Holistic health information every weekend with Dr. Paul. Saturdays during the Holistic Hour at 9 a.m. and Sundays during the Green Hour at 3 p.m. right here on WURD 96.1 FM and 900 AM. Streaming live at wordradio.com and on the Word Radio app.
Have you or anyone you know had their social media accounts hacked? Have you been targeted because you are a social justice advocate? Join UPenn's African American Resource Center and Information Security Office for a seminar on securing computers and online communities against cyber threats, Thursday, August 20th from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Registration and other information can be found on Facebook at African American Resource Center.
RG Electrical Inspections provides electrical inspections for realtors, licensed electricians, and homeowners. RG is a certified plans examiner and licensed underwriter providing assistance for PICO outages. RG is also listed on PICO's website. RG Electrical Inspections is a licensed and insured underwriter serving Philadelphia and surrounding areas. Call if you have plans to review today, 267-902-1655.
The Word Radio newsletter, keeping you informed, engaged, and connected. Sign up by visiting wordradio.com. Scroll to the bottom of the page and type your email address under Connect with Us. You'll receive the latest information on Word Radio, messages from our president and CEO, Sarah Lomax Reese, exclusive articles and multimedia content, and resources. Stay informed with the Word Radio newsletter. The Source with the rapping professor, Dr. Aaron Smith. Right now on Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD. Streaming live at wordradio.com and on the Word Radio app.
You are listening to The Source. Aaron Smith, the rapping professor. Young Jordan on the board and making sure you never are. Summer Freedom Virtual Neighborhood Love Tour. It is a beautiful experience because today you see how we are doing it for West Philadelphia. Let's keep this party going. If you just tuned in, make sure you listen to the playback because we had Eli and Lou Bevins from Eli and Lou Entertainment, and they talked about the significant impact of the programs and experiences at Overbrook had for them, and we're going to keep it going with the Overbrook School for the Blind. This Overbrook area is on today because we are highlighting different neighborhoods in the city of Philadelphia. Jackie Brennan is the superintendent of Overbrook School for the Blind, another school in the area, certified teacher of the visually impaired. She has worked at the Overbrook School for the Blind for over 40 years, providing educational programs for students who are blind, visually impaired, deaf, blind, and wait. I got one question already, so you're going to be teaching me today. And visually impaired with multiple disabilities. First as a classroom teacher and then as a program coordinator. Welcome to the program, Jackie Brennan.
Hi, thank you so much for having me on.
40 years.
40 years.
Let's start there. I mean, how did you first get involved with this work?
I came about it accidentally. I was fortunate that my parents actually grew up in the Overbrook community, so I was familiar with the school and spent lots of weekends here. And then when I graduated from college, they contacted me and asked if I'd like to join them as a teacher.
And for those who just may be completely unaware of how a school like this operates, can you tell us some of the primary differences in terms of just a traditional high school and a school for the blind?
Sure. We're considered what's called a chartered school for the blind. We're a nonprofit, so all of our services are free to families. We serve children birth to 5 in the community, and then on our campus we have children from ages 3 to 21. And our students, as you said, are blind or visually impaired, deaf-blind, and many of our students have additional disabilities as well. So our school is very diverse, from more typical learners to those students that have complex learning needs. And we're a small community here. We've been in Philadelphia and Overbrook area since 1900. We began in 1832. So we have a long history, both within Philadelphia and the Overbrook community. And we provide all of the educational needs that our students require to learn. We prepare them for their adult life so that they could live and work in the community.
Now, when you say the term deaf-blind, is that just referring to young people that are deaf and blind? That's the way that they say it, or is there something unique about that combination?
Yes, it's for children who have, or adults who have both a vision and a hearing loss. So they are a unique group of people because their learning needs are very different than somebody who may only have a hearing loss or somebody that may only have a vision loss.
And talk to us a little bit about what type of instruction does that entail, and just what is the traditional type of communication when dealing with an individual that is blind and deaf?
It varies depending on the students. The term can be confusing because it doesn't mean somebody is totally blind and profoundly deaf. They may have some vision or some hearing. So it depends. Some of the students use speech, and we just communicate with them through clear speech and using maybe amplification. Other students use sign language that they can see, and for some students we may sign into their hands. Other students use communication devices, so it really varies depending on the need of the student.
Now, at the Overbrook School for the Blind, would this be considered legally blind and legally deaf?
Yes.
And for those who don't understand the details of that term, what percentage of your hearing or vision are we talking about being affected to be classified as such?
Well, for hearing, there actually isn't a legal definition for hearing, so it could be a mild loss to a profound loss.
Okay.
But for a vision loss, it's basically, people are familiar with the term 20/20 vision.
Yes.
Which means what a typical person could see at 20 feet, the other person sees at 20 feet. So for our students, it might be what a typical person could see at 200 feet away. One of our students needs to be 20 feet away in order to see the same item. So that's 2200 vision. Or they can have what's called tunnel vision, where you can only see a little bit in the front or maybe to the side, but you don't see all around the way a person with typical vision does.
Now, in terms of the shift to online or virtual learning, has it affected your school differently? If you're just tuning in, I'm talking with Jackie Brennan from the Overbrook School for the Blind. Has the educational process been very different, or is it in some ways more similar to the transition as opposed to what a traditional school might experience? Has it been less of a transition for you?
I think the answer is yes to both. I think for some of our students it's been pretty typical, with the differences being maybe how they access remote learning. Rather than seeing the screen on the computer, they may use a screen reader to hear what's on the computer, or maybe receive it through a Braille display so that they can read the Braille of the text that's on the computer. But for a lot of our other students, it's been very unique. They may not be able to see the computer or feel the Braille or see the sign language through the computer, so we've had to find some really unique ways to teach some of our students remotely. Our staff is incredibly creative, and our families have just been absolutely amazing through the whole process.
I actually had the experience to work at a camp for the visually impaired. It was a Camp Marcella in Rockaway, New Jersey, and I was just blown away by, mainly, I think the most amazing experience was when they played the movie and the movie was narrating what was happening.
Yeah, it's called audio description.
Yeah, please talk about that, because I was looking around like, how are we going to watch this movie? And I was really just taken aback.
Yeah, it's great, and we actually use that through our virtual learning program. When our librarian would read books for the students, she did audio description of the books. It's basically a way to narrate something that's visual by filling in all of the background information that you and I would see while there's a scene occurring on a movie. So it might be that we visually see somebody walk into a room, but if you're blind, you don't have access to that. So the narrator would say, so-and-so has just entered the room. So it just blends in with the dialogue of the movie or whatever you're looking at, and just really narrates for the blind user so that they know what's happening visually in the scene.
And it was interesting because even now when I listen to audiobooks or, narrations of, like when they read the closed captions, I think that there's a major element that's missing that can be gained from a better understanding of how this community receives their information, because I found it a far richer experience, far more poetic, far more detailed, nuanced experience to understand it, through that type of description than just hearing the words. And I think people often, they limit themselves, by looking at other people as though their experience is more limited, when in some ways it was richer and more nuanced.
I agree with you, and I think a lot of sighted people feel the same way. It really does. It's a more enhanced version of what you're viewing and listening to, and I think sometimes it highlights some of the things that you would not have even picked up on. So I do think it gives you a really enhanced version.
Now, in terms of some of the career options and, lives that you prepare your young people for at the Overbrook School for the Blind, what are some of the things that we might be surprised to hear that some of your students, go on to do in life?
Our students can go on to do most anything that a person with sight can do. I mean, obviously there are some things that they can't do because of limited vision, but they can do anything. They can work in an office, do accounting, finance, work in food service, become a chef. So really almost anything that a sighted person could do, a person with a visual impairment can do as well.
And what is the status in terms of some of the research when we talk about, you know, you hear about removing cataracts, you hear about certain people receiving certain levels of their hearing, you know, through different research experiments. What is that push like? Because I just don't hear the same level of, you know, promotion. Like when people talk about cures for cancer, you know, I don't really hear the same level of conversation around let's cure blindness, let's cure deafness. So what are the types of things you're hearing from the research community about the possibility to improve people's lives on that front?
Yeah, well, I think we don't hear a lot about it because the numbers of people that have either a hearing loss or a vision loss are much lower than, you know, working to try to cure cancer. So I think that's why we don't hear a lot about it. But there's a lot of research that's occurring. Certainly with hearing loss, people are familiar with cochlear implants, and that is a way to help a person with a significant hearing loss hear sound, and that's been very successful. There's other kinds of amplification as well. Vision loss is a little bit more complicated, but there's been a lot of work done in the area, a lot of work with, again, surgery to correct vision loss, cataracts, and different other kinds of vision loss, other work on genetic conditions as well. So a little bit more complicated and more complex than amplification, but there's a lot of work right now that's occurring in the area, and I think it's giving a lot of new opportunities for people.
Now, is there anything we need to know in terms of support in ensuring that the available technologies are provided to those in need? Because sometimes, you know, there's a level of bureaucracy that might interfere, you know, with people living their best lives as far as, you know, accessing technologies and research breakthroughs. Like you talked about how do you say, cochlear implants?
Cochlear implants.
Is this available to those that need it, or is there still more struggle that needs to be done on that front to ensure that people in need, you know, receive this kind of attention regardless of income?
No, that's available to people that need it through insurance.
Okay.
The procedure, so that's pretty readily available. There are lots of programs, hospitals that do that type of surgery. For vision loss, there's the Bureau of Blindness and Visual Services, which is helpful, and some other agencies. And certainly we as a school work very closely with our students to make sure they have what they need as well. I think just general awareness for people to make sure that everything that we do, whether it's a school or other programs, websites, that it's all accessible. And that's, I think, what my push would be, is to make sure that we're all looking at accessibility for all of our students and adults, those that are blind, those that have hearing loss, those that may be physically challenged as well. But accessibility, I think, is the key.
And when they don't have insurance, they can still access it through other means?
I can't really speak for cochlear implants.
I hear you.
But certainly for there are other programs like through the Bureau of Blindness and Visual Services, which is a part of the Office of Vocational Rehabilitation. There are some supports there for people who may need some technology or other supports because of their vision loss.
And in terms of like the ways that you, I guess before the virtual situation, when it comes to like celebrating the graduations, when it comes to, I don't know, theatrical productions, you know, I think it's important for people who don't know, you know, the ability, you know, to adapt and adjust and live what most people would consider very normal lives. I would love for you to share a little bit about that. Same way you said in terms of what they can go on to do, how it's basically, you know, very similar to what everybody else is doing. I think that level of humanity is important to stress. If you could just talk a little bit about how it's, you know, a lot just like school that they might go to with some differences in terms of the way the instruction is done.
Sure. We do everything that you would see in a typical school. You know, this year we had our prom like we do every year. This year was done differently because it was virtual like everybody else. We have sports. We compete with other schools for the blind from Boston all the way down to North Carolina. So our students are engaged in extracurricular activities all of the time. We have cheerleading. We teach all of the academic subjects. We teach also what's called the expanded core curriculum, which are specific skills that a student needs because of their vision loss. So pretty much everything you would see in a typical school, whether it's elementary or high school, we would do here as well with our students. Differences would be much smaller class sizes, much more individualized work, and you see the students across the board. Just really, they're wonderful students. I have to tell you, really great, supportive of each other. It's a wonderful environment to be in.
I remember when we used to do the basketball and we tap the rim. I thought that was really interesting. And when I worked with the younger people, I learned how to tap the rim and I learned how to duck very fast as well.
Exactly.
Because if they miss, make sure they miss you in addition to that. One thing that was very encouraging and just beautiful in terms of, you know, the natural state of the human spirit was how people, through what they didn't see, you know, weren't negatively exposed to. I met some of the least sexist, least racist, least ageist people, you know, in that community during that experience, because it just wasn't a part of the ways in which they interacted and acknowledged people as human beings in so many instances that it was really nice and refreshing to see human beings being more humane toward each other and really identifying based on, you know, some of the things that they had in common, which was, you know, related to sight or hearing as opposed to color or gender or class, as they say. That was just a beautiful experience as well.
I agree with you, and I think you see that reflected here every day. I mean, our students recognize each other for who they are as people, regardless of their ability level, where they come from. They are thrilled when their friend receives an award. They help each other out, very respectful of each other. I think it's a really positive and supportive community and really shows, I think, how we'd want everyone to treat each other.
How we should be, right? We got a lot to learn from other communities that we think we're always helping, but there's a lot of help they can give to us just through the example they set. If you're just tuning in, this is Jackie Brennan from Overbook School for the Blind. And before I let you go, can you please give us information on how to support or how to find out more about the Overbook School for the Blind online?
Sure. If you just go to our website, which is www.obs.org. So that's O as in Overbrook, B as in boy, S as in Sam, .org, obs.org. You can get a wealth of information from our website, showing you lots of pictures of our students doing amazing things, how to contact us if you have more questions as well. There's a page there for supporting us if you'd like to do that too, but the website has a wealth of information.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for your tireless dedication. Again, 40 years.
40 years.
Yeah. Oh, my. How long you plan on staying?
I don't know. I just love it here.
No, I hear you. And I think it keeps people young. You know, when you do something you love and you know that you're making a difference, I think that is really not just what life is all about, but what gives people life as well. So keep doing what you're doing, and we just thank you and just honor all the great work that you do. And I'm sure that you've had a positive impact on countless lives throughout 40 years of service. So thank you so much to the Overbrook School for the Blind as well.
Thank you, and thanks for all you're doing, too. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Take care. Yeah, Camp Marcella, Rockaway, New Jersey. I was there just learning, and that is a powerful lesson that people have the ability to treat each other like human beings just based on who they are. And, you know, if I'm your friend, it's because we have something in common, and that's the main thing that holds people together. And a lot of people from that community, I noticed, had experienced bullying and being put out and being outcast in such a way that they didn't think that was cool whatsoever. So when they got amongst each other, they just recognized that, you know, putting people out of groups and bullying people and judging people on appearances and things like that wasn't the best way to engage one another. So that was a wonderful experience. So shouts out to the Overbrook School for the Blind, and shouts out to Camp Marcella in Rockaway, New Jersey. And join us this Thursday, August 20th, for the annual Founders Day celebration honoring the life and legacy of Walter P. Lomax Jr., M.D., Philly-born physician, entrepreneur, philanthropist, and founder of WURD Radio. Will devote the entire day, 6 a.m. to 9 p.m., to special celebrations for Founders Day programming that include panels on doctors fighting on the front lines to access, you know, for access and equity, economic empowerment, celebrating a 100-year anniversary of the women's right to vote, and with black women elected officials, and reflections on Dr. Lomax's legacy with family and friends throughout the day. Y'all know that Founders Day is always something special. I mean, they'll say, it's a holiday with Dr. King, so it's a holiday. We will also be introducing WURD's Livelihood Initiative, designed to connect black Philadelphians to jobs, careers, information about career readiness and resources, entrepreneurship and opportunities and deal with financial literacy. You can listen all day, 900 AM, 96.1 FM, WURDradio.com, and through the Word app. And you can watch the panels through Word TV by going on Facebook.com/4Word and via the Word website. There's also a special Founders Day discount for the Word membership. Join and renew your Founders Day for a discounted price of $80. Get some money off. Go to wordradio.com for the full lineup and to register for Founders Day so you are eligible to win prizes and special giveaways throughout the day. Ain't that nice? You can just log on and win some stuff, right? I'm going to commercial, come back, another interview. You learning with Word, y'all.
Pico has many ways to help you lower your energy usage and save money at home. Here's one. Have an old working fridge or freezer in your garage or basement? Pico will pick it up, dispose of it responsibly, and give you a $75 rebate. That's right, $75. Plus, you can save as much as $150 a year on your energy bill by getting rid of it. Just schedule your pickup at pico.com/recycling or call 1-888-5-PICO-SAVE today. Be sure your fridge or freezer is plugged in and working at time of pickup.
Are you hungry today? Have your taste buds been sufficiently pampered? Call Eatable Delights for succulent and juicy turkey wings, no-filler crab cakes, or tender smoky beef ribs. You can pick up curbside or get delivery in Philadelphia, Montgomery, South Jersey, Delaware, and Bucks County. Call 215-236-3900 or stop by 1540 Wadsworth Avenue. That's 215-236-3900 because even your taste buds deserve pampering. And tell them Solomon Jones sent you.
The Source with the rapping professor, Dr. Aaron Smith. Right now on Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD. Streaming live at wordradio.com and on the Word Radio app.
You are tuned into The Source. Aaron Smith, the rapping professor. Young Jordan on the board and making sure that you're not. This is the Neighborhood Love Tour. Virtual love. You feel it through the speakers. Sending you a hug through your speaker. Can you feel the love? WURDradio.com. Listen live anytime and log on. 900 AM, 96.1 FM. And at social media sites, you can check us out at onWURD. That's at onWURD. YouTube, Facebook, and all that good stuff. At this time, we want to make sure that we acknowledge some of the wonderful partners and primarily those who make this virtual love tour possible. Wells Fargo. Shouts out to Wells Fargo. Tiffany Hardiman. Hopefully I put the proper respect on your name. And we just want to talk a little bit about some of the people who, help to bring that corporate culture to the community in such a way that we have these positive interactions, not just transactional, but transformative. And Wells Fargo is leading the charge in helping people to understand the importance of being active in the community as well as being corporate partners. So welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate WURD Radio for allowing me the time to speak today.
Did I say your last name right?
You did. Thank you.
Okay, I want to make sure I clarify that in the beginning. Talk to us a little bit about just the importance of volunteer work and giving back to the community with Wells Fargo.
Absolutely. So I've been with the bank for 13 years as a branch manager, too, and I've been subject to so many different opportunities to be able to volunteer within the Philadelphia community mostly. A lot of the things that we've done have been rehabbing and restoring and enhancing schools and classrooms and playgrounds. We've done plenty of Habitat for Humanity projects, which we're able to work together in huge groups with building foundations for homes that are affordable for veterans and other consumers. We've also had many food drives where we are basically having team members and customers who are willing to participate, where they gather food and bring it to the office, where we all put together and we donate it to a couple of different charities in the particular areas. A lot of other things, too. I actually have a husband who is a Sigma, and they do a lot of outreach within the Philadelphia community as well. And we have some really, really great opportunities to incorporate Wells Fargo because we both work for the company, and also to support with financial literacy in the communities at community centers, for schools, and much more, actually. So Wells Fargo has a plethora of different volunteer activities that not only allow team members to be able to support the community, but that we're able to bring our families and educate them on giving back to the communities that we live in as well.
Well, shouts out to Wells Fargo. A Sigma, you say?
Yes.
What school did Frat go to?
My husband went to Bloomsburg University.
Oh, my goodness. Do I know him?
His name is Earl McNeil, so you probably do.
Oh, okay. You say I was talking to Smitty on the radio today. I'm sure you do. Okay, but back to business. You said branch manager. I love when people tell their story, because especially for the young people, I like people to know how people move up in various fields. How long have you been with the company, and how did you move up to the level that you're at now? Where'd you start?
So I've been with the company for 13 years. I started from foundation of a teller. I started off full-time and transitioned to being a service banker, which at the time I will speak volumes that the company really, really supports African Americans, African American women. Like, they really, really supported me in my venture. I had a supervisor who saw great strengths in me. And invested in me to learn the positions, and I was able to transition to a service manager 2 from that banker position. And then I ventured my journey through management, going into a branch manager 1, and now at the level of a branch manager 2 within 13 years. I think it's really just putting in the effort of wanting to learn the role, making yourself available, being active in the community around volunteer activities, and just being heard. Allowed me the opportunity to move up within the company.
That was going to be my next question, too, because a lot of times, people come in on certain levels in a lot of professions, and no offense, but a lot of times people stay at the level that they come in on. And I always like for people to understand what distinguishes, those who move up from those who stay in certain positions. And when you said things like make yourself available, I think that's one really important distinction in terms of access and upward mobility. And also it helps when it comes to community service, right? Like, really to have that belief that it's important to serve helps you to move up that corporate ladder, but also helps you to be of service in your community. I think that people really need to see that connection.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
Apparently Wells Fargo sees that connection because, not only do you attract those kind of workers, to your corporation, but you're able to represent yourself in a more authentic way because, you have people who really care about the community and not just trying to, do it for show.
I agree.
What area are you from originally?
I'm originally from Southwest Philadelphia.
Oh, okay. What high school?
I went to Girls High, actually.
Oh, shouts out Girls High. I'm gonna tell you something. Side note. Between Girls High and Central, no offense to any other high school, I think I've met some of the most refined, productive people since I've been in the city of Philadelphia. I just have to be honest. Usually when somebody's doing something, I know I'm starting trouble, but those are two of the places where I, disproportionately find that they've been educated. So shouts out to Girls High, shouts out to Central, and your school too, before they call me up upset. But back to Wells Fargo. Some people who might want Wells Fargo to, do something with their community group, or, if they want to access some of the things that Wells Fargo is doing in their community, how do people reach out to Wells Fargo for the community engagement as well as, to open accounts and things like that?
So you definitely have all of the resources through wellsfargo.com, and also just having access into the branch and talking to the bankers and the branch managers will allow so much opportunity for us to be able to come out and outreach to your community, whether it be just for financial literacy, for schools, or education for small children, and even parents with getting them on board with the importance of saving and things of that sort. Just the basic foundations. And just also, you talking to the branch manager, just stepping in, introducing yourself, your company, or maybe even the organization for the school allows us the opportunity to take it to upper leadership if necessary.
Wow, we only got a couple minutes and you done started with that financial literacy component. I'm about to sit up in my seat. How early do we need to start talking and training up the babies? What are some of the ways that you would encourage some of the adults to get young people more aware or more engaged with the importance of financial literacy?
So I really feel like it starts off with the parent. I just had a child myself, and from the womb, I've already started establishing a pattern of saving for that child because, you'll never know what's going to happen, whether it just needs to be emergencies for medical or whether it's just emergencies for saving for school expenses. You never know what's going to happen. So I think definitely starting with the foundation of the parent and educating them on the importance of credit building, the importance of paying yourself first, looking at your expenses, cutting back where you really don't need to spend, whether it's a will or whether or not it's a need. So really understanding what's considered to be a need versus a want, and saving towards what might be the most important for you. And then even for like children, when you're in math classes, the financial literacy part of going out to the schools and talking to, the teachers and the children, and being part of the plan of having a piggy bank. When you get change, put all your change in your piggy bank and keep your dollars. And as you keep getting change, keep filling it up. You can start from the smallest ages of pre-K for teaching your child how to save some money. So I definitely feel like it definitely starts with the parents first, but going into the schools and teaching our children is definitely really, really important.
And what are some of the questions? I know we got to go, but last question. Okay. What are some of the questions that people should ask when they go to the banks? I know there's so many other services you provide, more than just saving the money at the bank. What are some of the things that maybe we can ask to access some of those other services or advice or options, that your local branch could provide if only you knew the service there, or you knew to ask?
So I would say that if you're a customer and you're coming in just trying to get basic information, one of the things that you can always ask, and one of the things that I educate my bankers to do, is to ensure that you're figuring out the financial picture of the client that's in front of you. Identify how many children they have. Identify and build a rapport with them to understand what their dynamic looks like, because we all have experiences. So we can kind of put ourselves in their particular place and know where we came from and know what it's going to take to get them to what their financial goal might be. So really understand your customer, and your customer should come with questions. So if they have questions about maybe, a college savings plan, how can we get them in touch with the right person? Or if they have, questions about just like a rainy day fund, or maybe even CDs or things of that sort, the banker is there to educate them based off of what they're saying is the most important to them. And our goal is to make sure that you have that financial success.
If you're just tuning in, I'm talking with Tiffany Hardiman, and she is a branch manager at Wells Fargo. We're talking about the importance of community service. Wells Fargo helps to make the virtual tour possible, and they do a lot in the community. We wanted to make sure we highlighted that. My phone was blowing up. They said, I know your husband, and he is with New Sigma. Shouts out to the Sigma. Shouts out to New Sigma. Shouts out to your man, your boo, your bae, your husband, and all that y'all are doing, and the new edition. Thank you so much. Give it one more time. Give us the website for all the information we might need to know with Wells Fargo.
So you can go to www.wellsfargo, which is wellsfargo.com.
You have a young boy or young girl in the family?
I have a 13-year-old girl and a 1-year-old boy.
Oh, okay. I'll leave it alone. I'm not going to get into that Greek talk. This is about Wells Fargo in the community. I'll just say a silent blue prayer. But no, take care. Keep doing all the great work that you all are doing in the community and in banking. Thank you to Wells Fargo. Thank you, Sister Tiffany. And just, much love, much respect.
Thank you for having me.
Take care. Oh, that was a fun one today. We had some great people on. That was just, see, we did. Yeah, y'all did it. The sisters did it today. Y'all did it. We talked with Tiffany Hardiman of Wells Fargo. We had an opportunity. Let me get all the names right and all the descriptions, because some people might have just tuned in. We spoke with Jackie Brennan from the Overbrook School for the Blind, and we opened up the show with the good sisters from Eli Lou Entertainment, twin sisters, Eli and Lou Bevins. And you are the next guest up, 215-634-8065. It's time for y'all to call in, especially if you from Overbrook tomorrow. How you going to shout out Girls High and Central when it's an Overbrook day? Go ahead. Now, call me up if you represent the area or the neighborhood, because we want to hear your neighborhood stories as well. Experiences, programs, people that influence your life. And if you just want to talk about things that are going on in the world, you know that the phone lines are open now, and you are learning with Word, y'all.
Fridays, it's right here on Word Radio. At 6 a.m., start your day with Daybreak, hosted by Helana. At 7, it's time to wake up with Word, with host Solomon Jones. Then at 10, it's a special edition of The Source with Tiffany Bacon, followed by Groundings at 1 p.m., hosted by Brothers Shamari. At 4 p.m., it's Laborers Live, hosted by Lessit. Then at 5, it's Solutions on Word. At 7 p.m., it's the Envy McKee Show. Then at 10, it's Freedom Sounds of Jazz, followed up by Messages in the Music, hosted by Joey Temple. Fridays are something special on Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD. Streaming live at wordradio.com and on the Word Radio app.
Recovery starts with a call. Pennsylvania's Substance Use Disorder Hotline is staffed by real people who are trained to help. They're here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They'll get you or your loved one into treatment regardless of your access to insurance. If you or someone you know is suffering from addiction, call 1-800-662-HELP. Recovery starts with a call.
Paid for with Pennsylvania taxpayer dollars.
Brothers and sisters, we've seen enough. It's time to get together. We can do big things together, just like they did. President Obama and Vice President Biden passed healthcare reform, helped rescue the auto industry, and created more than 15 million jobs. And right now, together, we can help Joe Biden do it again as president, to unify this country and fix the issues that we're facing right now. Real police reform, expanding access to high-quality education, protecting our right to vote, and rebuilding the economy so that it works for us. Now is the time for us to rise up and do this together with Joe Biden. Go to joebiden.com/Black America to learn more.
I'm Joe Biden, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Biden for President.
This is Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia. Independent Black Media. The Source with the rapping professor, Dr. Aaron Smith. Right now on Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD. Streaming live at wordradio.com and on the Word Radio app.
You are listening to The Source. Aaron Smith, the rapping professor. Young Jordan on the board and making sure that you never always with Neighborhood Love Tour. Shouts out to Wells Fargo. Now you know. Let's get back to the show. 215-634-8065. It's 900 AM, 96.1 FM, WRDradio.com. Listen live anytime and log on. If you don't have that app, you know where to go. Download an app like you know. You can also check out the show, all social media sites that we are on, including Facebook and YouTube at onWURD. And spread the word, share the love. And right now, I'm sharing the love by giving the microphone, the platform up to the people. Power to the people. Free the land, free them all. 215-634-8065. First on the line, my brother Maurice from North Philadelphia on line 1. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Professor, how you doing?
Doing well, sir.
Points. What I want to talk about Wells Fargo Bank and banking, and then I want to say who was influential in my life growing up. One, I like to say Wells Fargo, they talk about us doing business with them. But I wish we put a segment on what obligations they have to the black community as a whole.
We just had that segment on. That's what we were talking about.
No, they didn't talk about that. She talked about what we do with them as far as business. We didn't talk about what obligation they have to the community.
They talked about financial literacy programs, community engagement, working with community centers, working with local organizations, even to the point where your local organizations come in and introduce themselves as branch managers to do more programs in the community.
That's not correct, sir. You don't even have to go to the. That's what I'm saying. There's a segment missing. No one talk about that segment. The person you go to is called a CRA officer. They don't tell you about him. No one's talk about who he is. He's one of the most powerful things we do in community stuff. So no one even talk about him. Why? Because they think when you talk about him, they think they're in trouble. I'm not guessing this work. This is the work I do. But I want to move on to one of the influential guys was in my life was Mr. Billy Gambrell. He started to help start the Frankfurt Chargers up in Frankfurt. It's about a 60-year institution of youth football programming. The program was so successful. When you talk about the high school Frankfurt Pioneers home and champions, that's where his feeder system came from. The Frankfurt High School got their feeder system from the Frankfurt Chargers that made them the home of the champions. Thank you.
Thank you. Brother Joe from Germantown, you're online too.
Good afternoon, Brother Ann and Brother Jordan. How y'all good brothers doing today?
Doing good.
Praise be to Allah. You know, Brother Ann, let me say this to you, brother. Two things real quick. I was talking to Reverend Joe this morning. I was listening to National Public Radio, and it was playing a speech by Fannie Lou Hamer, and to show you what our people went through in this country just to get the right to vote. And that's why I don't take the vote lightly. But at the same time, we vote, like you said, we need to be voting strategically and voting intelligently. That just voting for people just because they're Democrat or Republican. We vote, they have our interests at heart. What happened with Fannie, her speech, she said, when it was with the Freedom Riders down in Mississippi, he said they got arrested, her and a group of other black men and women. They took them to the county jail, interrogated them and everything like that. But here's the kicker, Dr. Smith. They got black men to beat them. And of course, these brothers were inmates, and they didn't want to do it. But the racist white sheriff threatened them, said, if you don't, we'll blow your LMF and, brain, whatever like that, the N-word. And they forced them to beat their own women and stuff like that. So it just go to show you, Brother Ann, the demonic mentality of these people, that you would get another man to beat a woman, So that's why I say, man, our people, we went through a lot, and we still going through a lot in this country. When you look at the bloody history of what our people have went through in this country, man, it's enough, Brother Ann, as Marvin Gaye said, make you want to throw up your hands and holler, man. It's real. That is real, brother. It's some deep stuff. And now lastly, Dr. Ann, on the voting thing, and that's why, like, you always have no problem critiquing these candidates, whether it be Kamala or Sleepy Joe. But I had to laugh yesterday when your colleague was on, Brother Michael Coy. He had to laugh because he was talking to Maurice about Biden, about our so-called hero Biden. I'm saying that facetiously, of course. He said that I don't want to say anything negative about Biden. He said, I got some negative things about him because I don't want to influence the black vote. Well, my point, Brother Ann, and I say this in closing, that just goes to show you how morally bankrupt Joe Biden is, that you got to sit there and say that you don't want to say nothing negative because you don't influence the black vote. Now, if this guy had a record that could stand on his own, you would just have to do is just point out his goods and all the stuff that he could do or capable of doing if he became president. The fact that you want to hold back on any criticism because you think it would negatively influence black folks to not vote for him. Let's just go to show you the state of this American politics as we speak right now, Dr. Ann. That's why, like I say, I stand by what I say. I'm a Bernie man. I'm going to be a Bernie man, and I hope Bernie, when he speaks tonight or whatever, he can get some of his things in if he can. All praises be to Allah if he can. But thank you for your time, Dr. Ann.
Well, thank you for your call. I'm going to make sure I say I'm a Bernie policy man because, we might have to have somebody else eventually who implements Bernie's policies in terms of Medicare for all. Healthcare is a human right, I'm going to say, because some people get so confused about the semantics of Medicare, Medicaid. Healthcare is a human right. Let me just say it like that. Green New Deal, legalized marijuana, forgiveness of student loan debt, and proper attention to the housing crisis, decriminalizing marijuana. I'm for that platform. Even if Bernie is too busy saying his friend Joe to get to the platform, we got Cori Bush and AOC and the squad and other people, Jamal Bowman. So I'm for that platform. Because if he ain't going to attend to that platform, that's why 3% of Bernie's donors donated to Joe. 97% of the people who are behind Bernie didn't get behind Bernie when I'll leave it alone. Because people be swearing we all with Bernie. We with Bernie's ideas. Because when Bernie wasn't talking about his ideas, we wasn't with Bernie. We didn't go over there and give all our money just because he said. And if we was with him, that's what we would have did. So people, really need to pay attention to what people are really fighting for. They get so locked up in the personality, and they don't understand that whoever stands up and says, healthcare, human right, student loan debt forgiveness, decriminalize marijuana, nonviolent drug offenders not being, man, we with that person. We with whoever that is. I think that makes more sense than saying blue no matter who. So if Kanye West and Candace Owens ran blue, y'all, let me stop before they are charged to refine their rhetoric to make some sense. I don't say stuff like that because to me that doesn't make sense. Somebody says blue no matter who, that means if Donald Trump and Kanye West run tomorrow as Democrats and do the Bloomberg-Lieberman, let me just go back because I know. Mary from Mount Airy, line 1.
Yes, good afternoon, Dr. Aaron Smith.
Good afternoon.
You know, I think we need to make sure that Ed Rendell and these other people that's promoting this safe injection site, we need to make sure that's removed off the table from our court system, because over the weekend they said we had 30 shootings, 41 injured, 8 dead. You know, we have 300 recovery houses in the city of Philadelphia, 2 respite centers. Apparently, none of them are filled with people that need help that's on drugs. You know, I'm not for promoting drugs at all, not even marijuana, because that follows you on your job. I wouldn't want anyone helping me if I go to the dentist or the doctor's office on drugs. I wouldn't want them servicing me. You know, so people need to realize it affects your whole liability. And now these people are fighting over drug territory in the city of Philadelphia because of Ed Rendell. I hope they're listening, because I look at it this way. They have blood on their hands. Anytime a person is shot and killed here because they even mentioned that they was going to bring a safe injection site here, we're getting people from all over the country putting up tents, you know, waiting to make sure that they get access to just the drug market that Philadelphia has become a part of. You know, and anyone that's promoting this, you know, and I'm looking at from the top on down, you know, we have to make sure that this is eliminated immediately. I know it's still pending in the court system, which is ridiculous. A judge would even think it's all right for you to just shoot up drugs out in the open. You know, pitch up a tent and have them walking around looking like zombies. No, it's illegal. If they don't want to be placed in these recovery houses that we have, 300 of them, apparently they must be all empty. 2 respite centers that will provide medical treatment for them. You know, this is ridiculous. Our tax dollars is going for this. And yet we have people that are in need, that's starving in this city, where we got our top officials like Clark going to Canada with the mayor to actually promote illegal activity. No, they all need to be locked up. Thank you, and you have a good evening.
Thank you, Mary from Mount Airy. It would be interesting to see what they would do if people brought, literally transplanted some of those encampments to the neighborhoods of the political officials that are advocating for the safe injection site. That would be an interesting experiment. Like overnight, somebody get a whole fleet of buses, load up those tents, like those double-decker buses they do the tours with in Philly, load up those tents and load up a good 3 or 4 buses full of people, get a good 70 to 100 people, and then set up that same encampment we see right there by the Art Museum, bring that homeless encampment, and then go to Kensington and bring that other encampment and put them on either sides of, I don't know, in Montgomery County or somewhere right around the house of some of these officials, and see if they think it's such a good idea to foster that kind of activity and to give funding, you know, to perpetuate that kind of presence, you know, in their neighborhood. You know, the NIMBY syndrome, right? Not in my backyard. Interestingly enough, just last week, we were talking about political strategy. And a caller called in and said, you know, put a fork in them, right? Trump is done. And I cautioned the caller. I said, do not say that. I was around when Hillary had the polls on her side. I said, we do not want people to think that they can sit at home and not vote and it's all good because, you know, it's taken care of. And some of the reports were coming out. Biden 10 points, Biden 13 points, Biden 14 points. I'm going to play you a clip about some of these latest polls so y'all can listen. Have a listen to this.
And this is while the virus is out of control, the economy's in free fall,
Pause.
leadership.
I'm sorry, I want to make sure I let people know this is Rising from The Hill. It's on YouTube. TheHill.com has a show called Rising. This is Crystal Ball and Sagar. But they're talking about the new level of the polls and where people are in terms of the Trump-Biden situation. And some of these polls incorporate the VPs. So what a difference a week or two makes. Now you can have a listen.
Abdication, all of
No
these,
Congress. Yeah.
No Congress. I mean, complete absence of leadership, and you're doing whatever you're doing with the post office, and it's this close.
Yeah, it's incredible, actually. Now, we should say this is across the 15 battleground states, which they say is more than the 10 battleground states, which reflects kind of the changing
The tipping
dynamic
point.
of the rate.
Right.
It doesn't matter however you want to square it. 49, 48, within the margin of error. That's always going to be a problem. But this is what they also say. The movement in the poll amongst voters nationwide since June is concentrated amongst men between the ages of 35 and 64. So notably, not the boomers. So the boomers are generally with Biden, kind of have been since the coronavirus. It's much more people like mid-career, Gen X people, and then also among independents. So this is incredibly dramatic. In June, amongst independents, it was Biden 52, Trump 41. Today, 46-45. So something happened within the last couple of months here. Again, incredibly dramatic that Biden did not capitalize on, on the nationwide pandemic situation that we have going on here. I mean, we covered it as we were covering it at the time. We were like, wow, it looks like Trump absolutely could be toast if the Democrats actually lean into any of the problems against him. Doesn't look like they did.
He hasn't done anything. I mean, if you're looking at, who's going to lead us out of this, it's not like he's been out front making a case for his affirmative leadership. They have made...
We can stop there because sometimes I look at it like parenting sometimes. There are people who think that you love your children if you don't punish them. There are people who think you love your children if you don't discipline them. There are people who think you're showing love to young people by giving them no boundaries. And then there's good parents. No, if you want me to win, I played sports. I received a full scholarship to Temple University, run the 400 hurdles. Thank you in part to a man named Raymond Spivey from Montclair, New Jersey. And if you think I got to that position by Raymond Spivey being nice to me and not telling me the truth and being taken easy on me, then you don't know what it takes to make a champion. So when I won the state sectionals, when I won the Essex County is the county, New Jersey, in northern Jersey. To be the Essex County champion, you know what you got to say to people? The truth. You know how you make them great? By telling them when they slipping and when they tripping, and you get with them. So I love my coaches. I love the teachers that were hard on me. Those are the ones I go back to visit. But if y'all think that I'm going to let y'all do what y'all do. I'm just telling you in my personal experience, you need somebody to tell you when you slipping and when you tripping. That's how you go out and get it. Eugene from Maryland, you're on line one.
Professor Eugene Williams Sr. from Clinton, Maryland. It's been a long time since I've talked to your show. I'm concerned about young boys and girls. Tonight, Michelle Obama will be speaking, and many young people don't even know Michelle Obama, and I'd like for them to know Michelle Obama in this special way. I'd like for any grandparent or any parent now listening to Google Learning Words with the First Lady. That is a videotape of Michelle Obama around 2010 when I decided to write a book for children on Michelle Obama.
Well, thank you for your call. I want to make sure I share some of the DNC, the lineup for the convention, because I know a lot of people are going to be watching, and I have a list. And I guess, I don't know with the situation with AOC and Andrew Yang. I tried to give good advice. I said, you should definitely include them. I didn't think that was even something to be negotiated. But we did hear that Andrew Yang was added to the DNC convention speaker lineup after tweeting about it. I should read that. Because, there's a benefit. Squeaky wheel and all that they talk about. So I remember last week we were talking about Andrew Yang is the one who had 42% of his supporters that was Obama to Trump. So Andrew Yang had headway and was accessing a demographic that no other candidate was accessing when it came to the Democratic side. So if you want to sway some of these moderate independents and, these people went from Obama to Trump, I said, you got to get Andrew Yang up there, especially when everybody's talking about UBI. And a big thing right now are these relief packages. A big thing is it $2,000 a month? Is it $600 more with the unemployment? Like, these are big discussions that Andrew Yang has, the ear of a lot of people when it comes to being a trusted voice. So originally, Andrew Yang was not slated to speak, but now, according to Business Insider, Andrew Yang added to DNC convention speaker lineup after tweeting about being left off of it. I have no idea why he was left off of it, but I'm just pleased with the improvement. Grace Panetta. Let me read a little bit. Andrew Yang, an entrepreneur and 2020 Democratic presidential candidate, has been added to the speaker roster for the Democratic National Convention after previously expressing disappointment on Twitter that he wasn't included. It says, "I've got to be honest," the quote reads, "I kind of expected to speak." Yang, who has 1.6 million Twitter followers, tweeted on Tuesday after the initial DNC speaker lineup was unveiled. He later joked, quote, "Maybe I endorsed against one too many incumbents." The convention, which will be held almost entirely remotely, will begin today and end on Thursday. So that's one good thing. We did see some progress, I would have to say, in terms of Andrew Yang being added to the speaker list. So let's look at some of the people that'll be speaking. So I should read. I'm gonna give you the whole list on the other side, because they just want to talk about the highlights, but I want to give you the list because I know a lot of people want to watch, and this is one of the major moments. They say that the debates are a major moment, the convention speech is a major moment, and a lot of people say the other part of that major moment is the VP pick. So what we're about to see is one of those, especially when there's questions about, the various candidates' abilities to speak. There's predictions about the debates, and a lot of that comes from this performance. So we need to see a really, 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 powerful paradigm-shifting speech. And we need to make sure that we reach out to these people that we want to vote. That's how we're going to get them to vote. We want to get the vote out. We got to figure out people's why and talk their language. And a lot of people are concerned about the progressive vote, and I can give a lot of answers to that, and I can really help people reach out to progressives. I'm doing the other side. You're learning with words, y'all.
Weather and traffic to keep you informed for your drive home.
In the happy hour
With Sincerely Sarita.
Monday through Thursday, 4 till 7 p.m.
Right here
on Word Radio, 96.1 FM
and 900 AM WURD.
Pico has many ways to help you lower your energy usage and save money at home. Here's one. Have an old working fridge or freezer in your garage or basement? Pico will pick it up, dispose of it responsibly, and give you a $75 rebate. That's right, $75. Plus, you can save as much as $150 a year on your energy bill by getting rid of it. Just schedule your pickup at pico.com/recycling or call 1-888-5-PICO-SAVE today. Be sure your fridge or freezer is plugged in and working at time of pickup.
Join us for our annual Founders Day broadcast, a special virtual on-air and online celebration of our founder, Walter P. Lomax Jr., MD. Thursday, August 20th from 6 a.m. till 9 p.m. Enjoy an entire day of celebration as we recognize that independent black media is more important now than ever, with panel discussions that you can watch on Word TV via Facebook Live or listen on 900 AM 96.1 FM through wordradio.com or the Word Radio app, including a conversation with the Lomax family, discussions on black innovation, wealth creation, doctors on the front lines, featuring Dr. Ayla Stanford, self-care strategies during a time of madness, and much more. Plus, updates on our livelihood initiative to connect our community with jobs and career opportunities. And what better way to celebrate independent black media than to ensure that it continues to thrive by starting or renewing your Forward membership at the discounted rate of just $80 exclusively on Founders Day. It's all going down on air and online from 6 a.m. till 9 p.m. Thursday, August 20th. But be sure to register right now at wordradio.com to be eligible for exclusive prizes and giveaways during our Founders Day broadcast. And stay tuned to Word Radio, sponsored by Pico, Comcast, NBC Universal, Brown's Family ShopRite, Dietz & Watson, Canada Dry, Amoroso's, and Hers. The Source with the rapping professor, Dr. Aaron Smith. Right now on Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD. Streaming live at wordradio.com and on the Word Radio app.
You are tuned into The Source with Aaron Smith, the rapping professor. Young Jordan on the board and making sure that you never are. Shouts out to all the good people calling in, because now is your time. 215-634-8065. 215-634-8065. So much to talk about. People's, they want us talking about the post office. We can talk about that. They want us to talk about the politics. We can talk about that. Vaccines, they pushing, all in Africa and trying to talk about the black people should take it first. Melinda Gates, we could talk about that. We could talk about some of the funding and the local politicians. We talked about safe injection sites today and community engagement with financial institutions. But I want to give you a voice from the past. You might recognize this voice, but I'm going to, in lieu of all the stuff we've been talking about, I'm going to take my time. This is a timeless voice that I'm about to give you some of. Says, it's based on land. A revolutionary wants land so he could set up his own nation, an independent nation. These Negroes aren't asking for any nation. They're trying to crawl back onto the plantation. When you want a nation, that's called nationalism. When the white man became involved in the revolution in this country against England, what was it for? He wanted this land so he could set up another white nation. That's white nationalism. The American Revolution was white nationalism. The French Revolution was white nationalism. The Russian Revolution, too, yes, it was white nationalism. You don't think so? Why do you think Khrushchev and Mao can't get their heads together? White nationalism. All the revolutions that are going on in Asia and Africa today are based on what? Black nationalism. A revolutionary is a black nationalist. He wants a nation. To understand this, you have to go back to what they refer to as the house Negro and the field Negro. Oh, my gosh. Oh, my gosh. Sound familiar? I'm reading from Brother Malcolm X, right? There were two kinds of slaves, the house Negro and the field Negro. The house Negro lived in the house with master. They dressed pretty good. They ate good because they ate his food, what he left. They lived in the attic or the basement, but still they lived near the master, and they loved the master more than the master loved himself. They would give their life to save the master's house quicker than the master would. If the master said, "We got a good house here," the house Negro would say, "Yeah, we got a good house here." Whenever the master said we, he said we. That's how you could tell a house Negro. If the master house caught on fire, the house Negro would fight harder to put the blaze out than the master would. If the master got sick, the house Negro would say, "What's the matter, boss? We sick? We sick." He identified himself with his master more than his master identified with himself. And if you came to the house Negro and said, "Let's run away, let's escape, let's separate," the house Negro would look at you and say, "Man, you crazy. What you mean separate? Where's there a better house than this? Where can I wear better clothes than this? Where can I eat better food than this?" That was the house Negro. In those days, he was called the house, and that's what we call him today, because we still got some house niggas running around here. This modern house Negro loves his master. He wants to live near him. He'll pay 3 times as much as the house is worth just to live near his master and then brag about, "I'm the only Negro out here. I'm the only one on my job. I'm the only one in this school. You're nothing but a house Negro." And if someone comes to you right now and says, "Let's separate," let's say the same thing the house Negro said on the plantation. "What you mean separate? From America? This good white man? Where you going to get a better job than you get here? I mean, this is what you say. I ain't left nothing in Africa." That's what you say. Why you left your mind in Africa. On that same plantation, there was a field Negro. The field Negroes, those were the masses. There were also more Negroes in the field than there were Negroes in the house. The Negro in the field caught hell. He ate the leftovers in the house. He ate, while the others ate high on the hog, he ate what they called chitterlings. That's what you are, gut eaters. Some of you still gut eaters. The field Negro was beaten from morning to night. He lived in a shack in a hut. He wore old cast-off clothes. He hated his master. I said he hated his master. He was intelligent. That house Negro loved his master. But that field Negro, remember, they were in the majority, and they hated the master. When the house caught on fire, he didn't try to put it out. The field Negro prayed for a wind, for a breeze. When the master got sick, the field Negro prayed that he'd die. If someone came to the field Negro and said, let's separate, let's run, he didn't say, where are we going? He'd say, any place is better than here. You got field Negroes in America today. I'm a field Negro. The masses are field Negroes. When they see this man's house on fire, you don't hear the little Negroes talking about our government is in trouble. They say the government is in trouble. Imagine a Negro, our government. I even heard one say our astronauts. They won't even let him near the plant. Our astronauts, our Navy. That's a Negro that is out of his mind. A Negro that is out of his mind. Just as a slave master of that day used Tom, the house Negro, to keep the field Negroes in check, the same old slave master today has Negroes who are nothing but modern Uncle Toms, 20th century Uncle Toms, to keep you and me in check, to keep us under control, keep us passive and peaceful and nonviolent. That Tom making you nonviolent is like when you go to the dentist and the man's going to take your tooth. You going to fight him when he starts pulling, so he squirts some stuff in your jaw called Novocaine to make you think there is nothing in it, there's nothing, that he's not doing anything to you. So you sit there, and because you've got all that Novocaine in your jaw, you suffer peacefully. Blood running all down your jaw, and you don't know what's happening because someone has taught you to suffer peacefully. The white man does the same thing to you in the street. When he wants to put knots in your head and take advantage of you and not have to be afraid of you fighting back. To keep you from fighting back, he gets these old religious Uncle Toms to teach you and me, just like Novocaine, to suffer peacefully. Don't stop suffering. Just suffer peacefully. Malcolm X. I'm reading from a collection of the speeches called Malcolm X Speaks. Message to the grassroots. How relevant. 215-634-8065. 215-634-8065. Maybe some of y'all want to call up and talk about our government or the government, depending on the way you see it. So many interesting stories. I need to play that Cornel West audio because a couple callers called last week and said, man, you need to play Brother Cornel West, talk about the situation. Whew. Boyce Watkins made a good point, too. Shout out to Brother Boyce Watkins, all the people from Fly Newbie and Queen. He was saying that we harder on our own children than we are on other people's children. So when you see people being critical, I talked earlier about, sometimes people criticize out of love. I'm a parent. I'm not saying I don't care about other people's children, but if my child comes home and says, well, so-and-so could do it, why can't I? I'm going to let my child know. That's not my concern. I'm not their father. I'm your father. So if I'm yours, I'm going to be harder on you, and you're going to expect more from me. I hope somebody's getting these analogies. I'm throwing these analogies heavy. What I'm saying is, if I'm part of your situation, I'm going to expect more from you. I'm not with them, so I don't expect nothing from them. So don't tell me about somebody else not doing a parental job, and don't tell me about a child that does what they want to do, because you know what? That's not my family, so to be honest with you, I don't really care. So don't tell me how good so-and-so's getting treated in their house, and don't tell me how bad so-and-so's getting treated in their house. That's not my house. I'm worried about my house. And as for me and my house, we need to talk about what's going on under this roof. So I'm going to expect things from you. You're going to expect things from me, because this is our family and our house. And you ain't going to make no progress in this house by telling me what somebody else is doing in their house. Whoo, I hope somebody is catching them today. But down the street, is worse. But down the street is better. I don't live there. And I'm not going to. I have no relation with them. So you can leave that conversation for the people that live down the street or affiliated with that house. As for me and my house, 215-634-8065. I'm going to get Cornell West on. Oh, you know what it reminds me of, too? It's the same way that corporal punishment in the African-American community resembles the whipping of the enslaved far more than the corporal punishment in any other group. The denial of the critique is rooted in this notion and history of white supremacy. Malcolm talked about it. Maybe I can get Booker T up from slavery on. I'm going to play a little couple clips of Booker T today, too. Ozzie Davis did a beautiful reading. If you want to check out the audiobook, you can look right on YouTube. Ozzie Davis reading Booker T. Washington's Up from Slavery. But he talks about the suppression of intelligence, right, with education. He talks about the suppression of agency. He talks about the suppression of a free voice because, you know, he talks about his life on the plantation as a young boy. And it's just so ironic that in a contemporary context, the people who literally wore metal muzzles would talk to each other by telling each other to just shut up. There's a tragic historical contextualization that's applicable to the contemporary political analysis when you say, wow, the people that were whipped are the main ones giving out whippings. They even call them giving whoopings. Some of y'all got Asian friends and white friends. They might call them spankings and everything else. But no, we call them whippings because, in part, I'm sure there's a connection to the fact that for 240 plus years, we were whipped. So we still live with that. And if we're the people that were most told, especially black women, that's really tragically ironic for a black woman who was told more than any other demographic to shut up, to be in this contemporary context telling people to shut up. That should never happen. Let me be clear. We talked about bullying last week. If you come from a demographic who beyond many, because what do they say, the N-word of the world, right? The most disrespected person on the planet, Malcolm said, is a black woman. So we should not be disrespecting each other over politics. I'm going to say that again. I'm going to sit up and say that again. Let me make sure I'm good on the video. If you come from a demographic who has been labeled as the most disrespected, then the last thing you should do in this contemporary political climate is be out here bullying or disrespecting people, because you know how it feels and you know it's not productive ways to communicate and to encourage people or win people over to what you believe and what you want them to do. So the bullying got to stop. I just played audio in the last clip that said, you know, that 13-point lead that Biden had just 2 weeks ago, according to a lot of polls, is gone. So all that just shut up, y'all might want to just shut that up, because that ain't helping, apparently. All over people's timeline, you've been berating people, questioning their intelligence, threatening to unfriend them, and telling them to shut up, and now he tied with Trump. How's it working out for you? And I said it to my brother, Eric Nixon. I said, have you ever been, you might have been in the same situation, Brother Jordan. You ever been in a situation where somebody, you was about to do something, but then somebody told you had to do it, and then you didn't really feel like doing it no more? You'd be like, oh, you better do it. Wait, no. I was going to do it. But if you're going to act like you punking me and forcing me, I'm going to sit myself back down. So if I was about to vote, we're trying to get out the vote. And I know for a fact that the people who are telling people to shut up would be the same people snapping if somebody told them to shut up. So we don't need hypocrisy. We need democracy. Oh, rapping professor, let's go today. So check your timeline. Check the post you've been posting last week and see if you are part of the reason, potentially, why Biden is polling 2 points away from Trump with a margin of error of about 2 points, when he was just polling 13 points ahead of Trump. And I said that the posture of the campaign, when they didn't include Andrew Yang, when they relegated AOC to 60 seconds in a pre-recorded address, I said that sentiment is trickling down to the electorate. People that support people start acting like the people they support. And when you see a campaign that doesn't seem to be attentive, then I see an electorate that wasn't attentive and wasn't respectful. We just had a contentious, election just to get to this point. People pretty extremely divided on different issues. We need to bring the party together. We need healing language. We need healing policy proposal. We need healing levels of agency and inclusion. So if you haven't had any outreach with the Latina community, and you have somebody who's arguably the most popular Latina in politics, AOC, if you have a problem or an issue reaching young people, and you have somebody that's a twofer, AOC is a woman, she's a Latina, and she's popular with the young people. You're three, right? You get trifecta. Why would she not have a prominent position to win? Don't we want to win, y'all? Don't we want to win, y'all? But you want to turn around and blame the people who are looking at this saying, hey, I want to vote, but can you shout me out? Can you put the people I like up on the stage with you? You got 4 nights to do it? You gonna be on for like 2 hours or 3 hours a night? You giving some of these sponsors more commercial time than you're giving AOC speaking time. And you want to say that you're for the people and not for the corporations, but you give the corporations more time than you give their representative of the people. You want me to help? I'm helping today. That's how you help. You tell people, yo, you moving. I don't know if that's the right move. You got a woman, a young person, a Latina, who's popular with young people, women, and Latinas. You might want to let her talk for a few minutes. That might be in your best interest, whether you like her or not. Because we're not talking about emotion. We're talking about winning, right? Because Trump is so dangerous. So let's focus on that and give people the time they need to communicate that idea in a way that it might better resonate and be received by people in her demographic that she influences so strongly. Andrew Yang got 1.6 million Twitter. Don't let me get on Twitter right now and tell you how much these other people got. Let me tell you how many subscribers these other people got in their YouTube pages. And you're going to be like, wow, 1.6 is pretty good. They should put Andrew Yang up there. You got people in the tens of thousands. I'm not going to name no names. But you got people you got people with under 100,000 subscribers on YouTube that are telling Andrew Yang that he, with his 1.6 million followers, that he shouldn't be speaking. I'm glad they came around. I'm trying to keep it clean today, but the nerve, man. The nerve. And they gonna be like, yo, but support me. Support yourself. You ever meet somebody that don't want to do nothing for themselves, wants you to get involved with something for them? You ever meet somebody like that? Playing a video game on the couch, 8 hours a day, talking about, yo, can I get a loan? I'm trying to get this thing. You ain't trying to do nothing. Because I would see it. It would look different if you was trying. You trying to scam. You trying to hustle up. Or you trying to punk somebody into doing something, trying to scare somebody into doing something. You ain't trying to show the work that you're doing. You ain't trying. Spread love. You on the line.
God bless, my brother.
God bless.
Give God the glory, my brother. Rapping Professor Dr. Aaron Smith. How you feeling tonight?
Feeling good.
Glad to hear that. As always, give thanks for your work, your acumen. Give thanks for your show. God bless Brother Jordan on the boards. Whole WRD family. And you know we always pray, God bless all the victims. Our hearts, thoughts, and prayers are with them. And God bless everyone working to make it better. May we always be blessed to get it together. And my brother, I ain't going to be too long. Thank you, though, for reading Malcolm. That's banging.
No, I appreciate you.
Yeah, likewise. And we appreciate him, too, you know. He wasn't bought. He realized we're priceless. I pray more of us, too. That way we be less buyable. You know what I mean?
I hear you.
But I wanted to say today, give God the glory. You had the honor of not only having a show on during His Imperial Majesty Emperor King Ali Selassie Aja, Rastafari, Earth Strong, but today is the Earth Strong of Right Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey, Order of Merit. You know what I mean?
I hear you.
So God bless up Garvey, my brother. You was on with His Majesty Earth Strong on the day with Garvey. That's a blessed thing for all of us. I wanted to, just wish a shout out to Garvey, of course, all the time. And a couple other things. Today was the premiere of Soul Train, 1970 in Chicago, if I got the date correct. Soul Train did a lot for our people. I say before on the radio because it brought 3 to 4 generations in front of the television at the same time to be entertained and admire the same people. You know what I mean?
No, I hear you.
It's breaking down a whole lot of generational gaps all at once and uniting people together with, you know, joy in their hearts. So, you know, God bless Soul Train. Shame how Don Cornelius went out, rest his soul. But God bless Soul Train all the time. And I got a couple questions, though.
All right, real quick, you got to go to break.
All right, real quick. One, and I'm honest, can you name to me any United States presidential administration or major party candidate who's even offered or initiated efforts to return this land to its indigenous inhabitants and not be stolen anymore? Another point I wanted to say is, you're right on point. Today, don't nobody got their chops no more. You know what I mean when I say chops? How when you was coming up, especially in the entertainment industry, you learned from people who were masters. Now they just, and now I mean masters like slave masters. I mean masters of what they doing. And you got your chops. You know what I mean? What they call that? You cut your teeth. But nowadays we dealing with a whole lot of people. They ain't getting that opportunity, so they just coming out. They don't even understand. And then a lot of people applauding them because they're not used to people having their chops. Like what you were saying about it's rough in Philly. A lot of us in Philly, if it's subpar to excellence, we ain't trying to hear it.
Now, here, y'all got to go to break real quick. Come back on the other side with more on the phone lines and more of you, because you are learning with Word, y'all.
Always Best Care is a great place to work.
Flexibility,
leadership, purpose,
great benefits.
There's never a dull moment.
diversity, inclusion, compasión.
We love our jobs. If you're looking for a great place to work, you can join our compassionate Team Green. You can apply online at teamgreenabc.com or call 267-909-9248.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
What's up, everyone? I know you know the word, no, not the station, but this word, J-O-B, that is, and our friends at Amoroso's Baking Company are hiring right now. Amoroso's has been baking the delicious bread in our community for over 100 years, and they want you to join their team today. The old and the young love Amoroso's, and they are hiring right now. Check it out. They offer fair pay and provide health, dental, and prescription plans after 90 days employment. Call 856-754-0355 or visit amorososbaking.com for details.
When I wake up in the morning, love, and the sunlight hurts my eyes, see something without warning, love, weighs heavy on my mind. Then I look at you, and the world's alright with me. Oh, just one look at you, and I know it's gonna be when the day that lies ahead of me.
The Source with the rapping professor, Dr. Aaron Smith. Right now on Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD. Streaming live at wordradio.com and on the Word Radio app.
You are listening to The Source, Aaron Smith, the rapping professor. Young Jordan on the board. Make sure you are not 900 AM, 96.1 FM, WURDradio.com. Listen live anytime and log on. If you don't have that, you know where to go download an app like you know. Welcome to the show. I don't know why I'm talking like that. Let me calm down. At onWURD on social media. Let me check out the social media as well so I could check in with y'all and shout y'all out. 'Cause I need to make sure I do that even more than I have been. Let me see WURD. I see that we live on Facebook. I'm going to start doing that too. I'm going to bring some of... I saw that DJ Frosty Phoenix was putting some of the visuals up when we were playing the videos. He was figuring out how to put it up there. And we're going to start doing some of that too in the daytime as well, because I know that some of y'all are watching, and y'all like to watch what we watch while we watching it. But shouts out to Cheryl, shouts out to Jennifer, shouts out to Jay, to Robin, shouts out to Norm, shouts out to Patricia, Philly Cleaning, everybody out there listening on Facebook. Shouts out to y'all. Shout out to the phone lines. Let's get these phone lines. 215-634-8065. Start with Ralph from Yaden.
Hey, good afternoon, Professor. I want to say good afternoon to your producer also.
Good afternoon.
Yes, sir. Hey, I'm not going to be long. I just want to, it's just something that I hear our folks repeating over and over and over again, where they think it's the truth, but I know better, that our folks died for the right to vote. That irritates the hell out of me. Like, we just simply died in the street trying to vote. No, let me give them the correct narrative. Our folks were lynched, beaten, killed, trying to obtain freedom and justice, and they thought voting would also do that for them, which we are still fighting for that after years of voting rights. So, I want to get that narrative straight today. Don't say that stupid nonsense, embarrassing our ancestors like that, like they just simply died for the right to vote. They were killed trying to obtain freedom and justice under a brutal, barbaric system that remains intact today, and voting has not did a thing about it. So I just wanted to get that straight today, Professor, because it irritates the hell out of me. What's your feedback on that?
Well, I think a good book is White Rage. They talk a lot about what happened during the pursuit of voting and give an interesting chronology of how the vote was suppressed in various ways, including violence.
Right.
White Rage.
So they just didn't simply die. They were killed. They were murdered. They were lynched. So, we got to get that narrative straight. Because how are we just going to repeat a lie like that when our people were trying various ways to get free from this barbaric system? So I just had to call in today and just invent, because it makes me sick when I hear that. You know what I mean, brother? So,
no, I thank you for your call. And you can also call in if you're just tuning in, 215-634-8065. I want to play, I'm going to give you this, young Jordan, I'm going to talk for a moment. Because I was looking at Brother Booker T. And one of the things that is very important, one of the missing pieces of what Booker T. Washington's story makes available to young and old people alike in a contemporary context, is the ability to overcome. I think these overcoming stories need to be more popular. I talked about other stories where people had nothing and made it happen. And when you hear Up From Slavery, when you think that Booker T. Washington at one point was the most popular and arguably powerful black man on the planet Earth. I'm going to say it again. At one point, Booker T. Washington was arguably the most popular and powerful black man on the planet Earth. Can you just play? We're gonna start at like 3 minutes, Brother Jordan. We're gonna listen together today, because there's so much conversation about feelings and emotions, and our government conversations. And I'm like, you know what? We just need to root the people in reality, because there was a trick played on us when it comes to the legacy of our brother. And there's a reason why we don't value vocations the way that we should, especially as a people. There's a reason why. He talks about those reasons. He talks about humble beginnings. But I'm just going to let's do like 3 or 4 minutes, and I'm going to come back on the other side and talk a little more, and then we're going to talk about another aspect of this story. But if you don't think that this is a worthwhile story, then you might have been subject to the same negative indoctrination and deception that I was subject to when I was taught that Booker T was a sellout, and the people that gave the fiery speeches, those are the ones you need to follow. And here I am with no skill but talking. And I don't wish that for the next generation, even though it's done well for me personally. You need more skills than just be able to talk. So stop following all these people that give good speeches and looking down on plumbers and engineers and architects and construction workers and barbers. because that ain't the move. We need both and somebody tricked us away from our brother because our brother held a crucial component to our liberation. I didn't say either or. This is Ozzie Davis reading from Up From Slavery, Booker T. Washington.
In addition to these openings, there was, in the lower right-hand corner of the room, the cat hole, a contrivance which almost every mansion or cabin in Virginia possessed during the antebellum period. The cat hole was a square opening about 7 by 8 inches, provided for the purpose of letting the cat pass in and out of the house at will during the night. In the case of our particular cabin, I could never understand the necessity for this convenience, since there were at least a half-dozen other places in the cabin that would have accommodated the cats. There was no wooden floor in our cabin, the naked earth being used as a floor. In the center of the earthen floor, there was a large, deep opening covered with boards, which was used as a place in which to store sweet potatoes during the winter. An impression of this potato hole is very distinctly engraved upon my memory, because I recall that during the process of putting the potatoes in or taking them out, I would often come into possession of one or two, which I roasted and thoroughly enjoyed. There was no cooking stove on our plantation, and all the cooking for the whites and slaves my mother had to do over an open fireplace, mostly in pots and skillets. While the poorly built cabin caused us to suffer with cold in the winter, the heat from the open fireplace in summer was equally trying. The early years of my life, which were spent in the little cabin, were not very different from those of thousands of other slaves. My mother, of course, had little time in which to give attention to the training of her children during the day. She snatched a few moments for our care in the early morning before her work began, and at night after the day's work was done. One of my earliest recollections is that of my mother cooking a chicken late at night and awakening her children for the purpose of feeding them. How or where she got it, I do not know. I presume, however, it was procured from our owner's farm. Some people may call this theft. If such a thing were to happen now, I should condemn it as theft myself. But taking place at the time it did, and for the reason that it did, no one could ever make me believe that my mother was guilty of thieving. She was simply a victim of the system of slavery. I cannot remember having slept in a bed until after our family was declared free by the Emancipation Proclamation. 3 children, John, my older brother, Amanda, my sister, and myself, had a pallet on the dirt floor, or to be more correct, we slept in and on a bundle of filthy rags laid upon the dirt floor. I was asked not long ago to tell something about the sports and pastimes that I engaged in during my youth. Until that question was asked, it had never occurred to me that there was no period of my life that was devoted to play.
There was no period of my life that was devoted to play. Didn't get a bed till after the Emancipation Proclamation. There were no windows. The air just flowed in. Cold in the winter, hot in the summer. And this man rose to become one of the, or if not the most powerful black man on the planet Earth. So don't tell me about where you came from. Don't tell me about what you didn't have. We're going to connect some dots today on the other side. We're going to inspire some people. You're learning with Word, y'all.
Get your money straight.
Get my money right.
With Solomon Jones and Akbar Hassan.
Fridays on Wake Up with Word.
7 a.m. till 10 a.m. Hosted by Solomon Jones. Exclusively on Word Radio. 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
Streaming live on wordradio.com and on the Word Radio app.
Philadelphia families, PHL Pre-K, the city's free pre-K program, is now enrolling. Over 130 pre-K centers are getting ready to serve children this year with appropriate health and safety precautions. There are no income limits for this free pre-K program. Children who are 3 or 4 years old as of September 1 can enroll. Call 844-PHL Pre-K or visit phlprek.org to learn more and find a quality pre-K center. That's 844-PHL Pre-K. This program is made possible by the Philadelphia Beverage Tax.
He was the heart of your family, and he taught you our history. He helped you fix your first flat. He was the best backyard DJ around, and every time he'd tell a story, he'd own the room. But now more than ever, he may feel alone. Today, older adults and their loved ones are struggling to connect, in a time when connection has never been more important. But there is something we can do. Embrace our older loved ones through StoryCorps Connect. With StoryCorps Connect, you can honor seniors remotely with an interview about their life. Every interview will be archived at the Library of Congress, becoming part of American history, so that years from now, future generations can listen in.
All right, Grandpa, what's one piece of advice you have for me?
Just 3 words, sweetheart. Live with courage. The man that had the best stories still has plenty of stories to tell. So connect virtually and share the conversation of a lifetime at storycorpsconnect.org/AARP. Connect, honor, share. StoryCorps Connect. A message from AARP, StoryCorps, and the Ad Council.
Home of the Happy Hour. With Sincerely Sarita. This is Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia.
Streaming live at wordradio.com and on the Word Radio app. The Source with the rapping professor, Dr. Aaron Smith.
Right now on Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
Streaming live at wordradio.com and on the Word Radio app.
You are listening to The Source, Aaron Smith, the rapping professor, with Jordan on the board, making sure that you're not. Phone lines are open, 215-634-8065, 215-634-8065. One thing I was talking about on the other side was how a lot of people have been deceived. You know, they've been conditioned to think in terms of not what I call beneficial extraction and figuring out what's good about what people have done and using that for their benefit, but they've been cast into this either-or musical chair, zero-sum game, tug-of-war, Malcolm or Martin, this or that, Garvey or Du Bois, and I say us against us, the us against us trap. And the reason, how are you going to call up and talk about having civics and professions in the community and how we need to have businesses in the community, but we can go a whole year without talking about one of the primary figures in our history. Matter of fact, we don't talk about the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who talked a lot about doing for self and businesses and self-determination through economic empowerment, quality of economics. And then there's Booker T. Washington. Like, these are two people who got it right. They knew how to do it. They made it happen. Like, you know, one left us a whole nation and one left us Tuskegee. Like, we don't access these examples, but we love these loud people that could clap back and give witty retorts, and, you know, these men that talk in ways like women. You know, they could gossip and, you know, they can own somebody and drag somebody, and like it's immature and it's not productive. Everybody wants to give a snappy response and get a lot of followers and give a fiery speech and clap back at somebody. No, build an institution, raise up a nation, be self-determined, influence people that have greater financial literacy. Let me give you another part from the good brother, because they started at 26 minutes. I'm gonna play a little clip there as well, and I'll break it down. This is Ozzie Davis reading Booker T. Washington's Up from Slavery. And I think we're gonna be talking about schooling at this point, but I'll break it down after. I'll give it like 3 or 4 minutes, because I know a lot of people just haven't read the book, and that's fine. Not fine, but, you know, I want to encourage people to understand the value of this story. This is a story young people need, especially young people who don't have much. Stop talking about people who had stuff to people who don't got nothing. Show them examples of people who also didn't have and made it all the way to the top. How do they think? How do they view things? How did they deal with adversity? Give another couple minutes, Brother Jordan. We're going to learn today.
Where they could see what was to take place and hear what was said. There was a feeling of deep interest, of perhaps sadness on their face, but not bitterness. As I now recall the impression they made upon me, they did not at the moment seem to be sad because of the loss of property, but rather because of parting with those whom they had reared and who were in many ways very close to them. The most distinct thing that I now recall in connection with the scene was that some man who seemed to be a stranger, a United States officer, I presume, made a little speech and then read a rather long paper, the Emancipation Proclamation, I think. After the reading, we were told that we were all free and could go when and where we pleased. My mother, who was standing by my side, leaned over and kissed her children while tears of joy ran down her cheeks. She explained to us what it all meant, that this was the day for which she had been so long praying, but fearing that she would never live to see. For some minutes there was great rejoicing and thanksgiving and wild scenes of ecstasy. But There was no feeling of bitterness. In fact, there was pity among the slaves for our former owners. The wild rejoicing on the part of the emancipated colored people lasted but a brief period, for I noticed that by the time they returned to their cabins, there was a change in their feelings. The great responsibility of being free, of having charge of themselves, of having to think and plan for themselves and their children, seemed to take possession of them. It was very much like suddenly turning a youth of 10 or 12 years out into the world to provide for himself. In a few hours, the great question with which the Anglo-Saxon race had been grappling for centuries had been thrown upon these people to be solved. These were the questions of a home, a living, the rearing of children, education, citizenship, and the establishment and support of churches. Was it any wonder that within a few hours the wild rejoicing ceased and a feeling of deep gloom seemed to pervade the slave quarters? To some it seemed that now that they were in actual possession of it, freedom was a more serious thing than they had expected to find it. Some of the slaves were 70 or 80 years old. Their best days were gone. They had no strength with which to earn a living in a strange place and among strange people, even if they had been sure where to find a new place of abode. To this class, the problem seemed especially hard. Besides, deep down in their hearts, there was a strange and peculiar attachment to old master.
So for some of the people, you know, they got an attachment to the master. That's an interesting first-hand account of the reactions to the reading of the Emancipation Proclamation on the plantation. Booker T. Washington went from these humble beginnings to create an institution that lasts today, to reach the point where during the speech about the Atlantic Compromise, he's one of the, if not the most well-known and powerful black people on the planet Earth, a man that inspired, happy birthday, right, Marcus Mosiah Garvey to come to the United States just to meet him and build with this man, who he never got a chance to meet and build with. But the reason why Garvey makes the trip, see, people like to take out, you know, parts they don't like of stories. They like Garvey, but not the fact he was a Christian. Whew. Oh, Professor, you doing it today. They like Garvey, but not the fact that he was a big fan of Booker T, to the point, you know, he was one of the, like, top supporter, we called on Facebook. We don't like none of that. So what was it that Garvey saw? What was it that Garvey... See, some people just want to say, they want to wear a T-shirt. They just want to repeat something that somebody said that they liked. But that's why they can't replicate said organizations, said institutions, said nations, said cooperative economics and self-determination, because they don't want to look at the interconnectivity of said legacies. If you want to do Garvey without Christianity and Garvey without Booker T and Garvey without, then you left with what you left with. Get your T-shirt, have your festival, and that's about it. You don't even own the building you meet and then to talk about it, because all you want to do is talk. Derek from North Philly, you're on the line.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Blessing and prosperity, brother.
Peace.
Rapping Professor, you know, as I was listening to the recording, and Booker T. Washington can recall his mother kissing their cheeks, and as tears was rolling down her face, it reminded me of the sight of when President Obama came into office as the first African-American president of the United States, how I saw Reverend Jesse Jackson, a tear roll down, John Lewis, and some other people who probably thought they wouldn't see such an event take place. Based on that right there, it gives me hope as I look back to the generations before them. It still gives me hope. I love Africa, but I'm in love with America.
No, I feel you. I appreciate the analysis, and I think that a lot of people have similar sentiments with regards to Obama when it comes to, you know, people living and witnessing moments in history that they thought they would never live to see but prayed would come true. Join us this Thursday again, August 20th, for the annual Founders Day celebration honoring the life and legacy of Walter P. Lomax Jr., M.D., Philly-born physician, entrepreneur, philanthropist, and the founder of WURD. We devoted an entire day, 6 to 9. It's going to be a special Founders Day programming event. Includes panels on doctors fighting on the front lines for access and equity, economic empowerment through entrepreneurship, celebrating the 100-year anniversary of the women's right to vote with black women elected officials, and reflections on Dr. Lomax's legacy with family and friends throughout the day. We'll also be reintroducing WURD's livelihood initiative designed to connect black Philadelphians to jobs, careers, information, entrepreneurship opportunities, and financial literacy. You can listen all day, 900 AM, 96.1 FM, wordradio.com, and also at onWURD through the WURD app, and can watch the panels through WURD TV by going to Facebook. Like I said, there's also a special Founders Day discount of $80. Go to WURD Radio for the full lineup, and make sure you tune in, for Founders Day, because it's always a beautiful celebration. On the line at this time is B from Delaware. You're on the line.
Hello, rapping professor Dr. Aaron.
Hello.
This is Jordan, the young phenom, worldwide WURD and Lomax families. Listeners, please get your memberships. In honor of Founders Day this week on Thursday, they are $80. Please listen in on Thursday to get the best of the best of WURD. It's all designed to keep us informed, connected, and moving in a positive direction. Professor, I have to say to you that I am not calling to criticize either candidate, either the Democratic nominee for president or his VP. As a proud Howard University graduate, I'm very proud that a Howard University has been put on the ticket. I do not criticize either the VP or the presidential candidate or the Democrats or the Republicans. I criticize the fact that the elite political class, of which they both are, talk about house Negroes and those who are challenging the system to be accountable to the needs of the African American community, and not just interested in criticizing Trump like Miss Bush and all the young people who are out there putting themselves on the line and making a difference. I want to say that we need more than people surrounding themselves with people more concerned about getting rid of Trump than they are about improving the lives of African Americans, because if not, the ticket is going to have problems. Young people want something concrete, and older people want to live long enough to see the dream of reparations so we can pass on what we can to future generations. But if out the gate they're not talking about inclusion and agency for African Americans, among many other things, which includes guaranteed minimum income, reparations, money for African Americans to start business, housing proposals, policing reforms that guarantee the safety of the African American community, Voting Rights Act with total reform. Professor, the day I long to live to see is for the freedom of receiving the reparations to forge our own destiny. I think that the party, those who are associated with that candidate, listen to the show, and they need to understand. Recently, Biden's responses to some of the things that have been happening in the nation are to criticize Trump. We want more than a Trump critique. You could do that until the cows come home. What we really need is some realistic understanding that the agency that African Americans who brought you to this threshold are looking for is going to be forthcoming. All of this, you've got to get elected nonsense. Let's see what they promised APEC. And if what they're promising APEC isn't like what they're promising the African American community, then they they need to rethink how they go about negotiating to the election day. Professor, we love you. We want you to keep the receipts coming. We want you to stay safe. And we just are so grateful that we're seeing and hearing so much more of you.
Well, thank you so much, B from Delaware. And for some of you all that I think we might have done it at night, I actually did a comparative analysis where I read, politicians' comments to AIPAC versus what they say to African Americans. And I always talk about non-negotiables. I said we should have non-negotiables in our community like everybody else. If you don't support same-gender love and equal rights to marriage, the LGBTQIA community does not support you. They don't wait till you get elected. They don't say what else is going on or who else is worse or better. If you don't adhere to their agenda, then they don't support you. With the Jewish lobby, AIPAC, if you don't support Israel's right to exist, you will not get their support. It's a non-negotiable. Some people feel that way in the female community with Roe v. Wade, and other people feel that way with equal pay. You're not going to say women and men shouldn't get equal pay and get the support of women. If you don't support us, we don't support you. And you at least have to be able to say you're gonna or might support us. If you're not even saying you're gonna support us, then I often have questioned, why would anybody get behind any candidate who promises not to do anything for you because everybody else is getting theirs up front? AIPAC brings people to their conventions to give their speeches to see if they're going to support them or not, because they want to know before they lend their support whether you're going to support them. You know, Chris Tucker says, same time, man, same time, like same time. Matter of fact, the opposite, before, you first. You show us you're going to do something, then we going to do something for you. That's how most people act, which makes me think of an article that just came out in Newsweek that says Biden leaves reparations out of racial equity plan despite left's calls for reform. Alexandra Hutzler did an interesting article. Democratic nominee Joe Biden's economic plan to combat racial inequality in the U.S. skips any mention of reparations, a concept gaining popularity in the mainstream despite past assurances that he would at least study the issue. So, just like Dr. King says, be true to what you said on paper. You said you're going to study it. Let's see some evidence of the study, results of the study, plans as a result of the study. The quote, build back better by advancing racial equity across the American economy plan. That's the plan. Build back better by advancing racial equity and across the American. They need to find an acronym or something. Is the triple B or something? We need to. I'm gonna help out, because that doesn't ring. It got a ring to it. I was waiting for the ring, and I'm gonna help out. I'm gonna figure something out. I'm gonna figure something catchy out. Features investing in affordable housing and home ownership, bolstering small business opportunities, and making public schools as well as historically black schools tuition free for families with incomes under $125,000. While the plan was notable in terms of addressing racial wealth barriers, it also was notable for leaving out bold ideas endorsed by Black Lives Matter advocates and the left wing of the party. It didn't include any form of direct financial compensation for black Americans for enslavement and discriminatory policies. It also didn't address H.R. 40, a bill introduced in the House of Representatives that would study what the federal government owes the descendants of slaves and explore what ways to repay the debt. Reparations was a top-tier issue during the Democratic primary, during which many of Biden's rivals endorsed, at least in theory, monetary restitution for the descendants of slaves, I say enslaved Africans. The idea has also been gaining momentum in cities across the country. Earlier this month, city council members in Asheville, North Carolina, unanimously approved the measure supporting what they called community reparations. We read that story as well. I think they need to add more to this list. We need a more succinct list. We need to talk about, when they say reparations for enslavement, I see that they also added in this story discriminatory policies. So that's a step in the right direction. But when we say that, we need to start giving like a top 5. Because people who try to do the long time ago, we need to make sure we nip that in the bud and answer that and, rebuke that before it even comes into the conversation. We need to say reparations for enslavement, for convict leasing, for racial terror and lynching, medical experimentation, for housing discrimination and redlining, and the crack cocaine epidemic and mass incarceration disproportionate sentences. Like, we need to get like at least 5 to 7 things. Like, this is what we're talking about. For Iran-Contra, the MENA connection, and the war on drugs, we need money for that. For Henrietta Lacks and Tuskegee and the Holmesburg prison experiments and the LSD, which you did in the Agent Orange, we need money for that. For the redlining and for the disproportionate white welfare you gave, from the Marshall Plan, the European, Recovery Act, to the Homestead Act, to the Headright Program, where you gave billions of acres of land, worth of wealth to white families, when you gave those no-interest loans, during the housing, policies, where you started doing the redlining and black people couldn't get access to Social Security for 30 years or couldn't get access to the GI Bill. Like that, we need to have that be a real rich conversation, to shut people down before they get started and be like, we're not talking about slavery. We're talking about the lasting impacts of slavery that manifested itself in things like the war on drugs, redlining, mass incarceration, and the disparities in education. In White Rage, oh my gosh, one day we're just going to dedicate to White Rage. White Rage, please read the book if you haven't read the book. Carol Anderson. Audiobook, even on YouTube, you can listen to it. And she starts talking about the amount of money that was spent for white children in these public schools versus black children, and how they closed some of these schools down. And in one area, they closed the schools down for 5 years just so the kids didn't have to go to school with black kids. During their formative years, they just didn't have school, and they were trying their best to have makeshift gatherings where they would sing and read. But I mean, literally just destroying generations of people. And people weren't enslaved. People say, oh, well, my people didn't own slaves. Well, your people might have been one of the 5,000 that was outside at these lynchings. Your people might have been one of the millions of people that got these homes, for no money down and no interest, for so many years, when they created the suburbs. When big government created wealth for white people by literally giving them suburbs for the same rate that black people were paying in rent, that were relegated to the slums. And when they tried to move out and into these communities like Levittown, they were racially terrorized and sometimes abused and sometimes murdered. We want reparations for that, because we don't have the wealth now that people bought $60,000 homes are now worth $400,000. And some of us are still living in the same neighborhoods and paid rent and paid into banks that won't even give us loans based on the money we've been putting into those banks for 30 years. We need reparations for that. We need to be understood what we're talking about. And we need leadership that's responsive to the terms like reparations. On the other side, I'm going to talk about Booker T. Washington. Ozzie Davis reading from Up From Slavery. We're going to start with a piece where he's talking about schools, when schools were starting in his area. And it's very interesting to hear about that, because we're not really talking about government-run schools at this point. We're just talking about schools that were selected by black people when they came together to pick who was going to be the teacher and how they was going to start a school. So I don't want people to ever think, we was waiting on Lincoln to get free and waiting on the government to get schools. On the other side, you're learning with word, y'all.
The Dr. Emeka Show. Saturdays at 1 p.m. right here on WURD 96.1 FM and 900 AM. Streaming live at wordradio.com and on the Word Radio app.
Hey, Word family. Our friends at Amoroso's Baking Company are hiring right now. Amoroso's has been baking the delicious bread in our community for over 100 years, and they want you to join their team today. The old and the young love Amoroso's, and they are hiring right now. Check it out. They offer fair pay and provide health, dental, and prescription plans after 90 days employment. Call 856-754-0355 or visit amorososbaking.com for details.
Family Therapy Vignette Moments with Dr. Lucille Ijoy. Come on out and become a Word Radio member one by one. Renew your membership or get a new one. Get serious information and have some fun. Call 215-425-7875. That's 215-425-7875. Come on out and become a Word Radio member one by one. Renew your membership or get a new one. Get serious information and have some fun.
The Source with the rapping professor, Dr. Aaron Smith. Right now on Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD. Streaming live at wordradio.com and on the Word Radio app.
You are listening to The Source. Aaron Smith, the rapping professor. Young Jordan on the board and making sure you never are. And we are here, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, WRDradio.com. Listen live anytime and log on. If you don't let me know to go download and have it like you know. Welcome to the show. It is a beautiful, beautiful day, a Monday. We did our virtual neighborhood love tour. Shouts out to Wells Fargo and all the good guests that we've had, or great guests we've had today. Make sure you listen to the playback if you missed it. I'm going to go to phone lines and I'm going to play some of this Booker T and give you some context. Mammy from University City, I'll go to you first.
Good afternoon, Professor Dr. Eric Smith. How are you this afternoon?
I'm good. It's Aaron, but you're close enough.
Okay.
How are you?
I'm okay. I just called to just congratulate Sarah Lomax Reese for the brilliance of the programming. I mean, everybody is just so good and so educational. I hope that some of the children who are home from school are looking at this type of listening to you all on the station. The legacy of Dr. Lomax continues on. He and Miss Beverly. It is just so marvelous that you all are holding it down, and people better get their membership cards.
I hear that.
900 AM, 96.1 FM, and God save the people.
Thank you so much for your call and for your time. And yes, shouts out to Sarah, shouts out to Miss Beverly, shouts out to the legacy of Dr. Lomax. And it's a joy. It's a joy to be able to celebrate ourselves. When I say ourselves, I mean the legacy of the Lomax family and just the blessing that WRD is for the world, you know, because people hit us up all the time online from all over the place. You know, we got regular callers from Germany that call in when I'm on at night. Shout out Brother Rick and others. Like, this is a really big deal, and I'm glad that people are, you know, recognizing it and supporting it, and I'm really appreciative of the contributions of the elders, because I know that it's just not my listener base, but also our membership base. Now, what I was playing earlier, I'm going to continue with a piece of Ossie Davis. Shouts out to Ossie and Ruby D. You know, rest in peace and in power. Reading from Booker T. Washington's Up From Slavery. And the piece I'm about to play for you is after the Emancipation Proclamation, Booker T. Washington, with what they call the blueback speller, you know, teaching himself to read through the spelling book and having this yearning for reading, and how when literate people came into the community, how they would help to raise each other up, and then they're going to have a conversation about the early schooling. So I just want to frame that for you. But I want you to first listen about this piece. He talks about his mother, who didn't know how to read, but was still the most instrumental figure in his life, assisting him in his satisfaction of his pursuit of education. And I want to need people to understand that. She didn't have the education, but her love and expectation and mother wit and guidance of her son still made her the primary contributor to his educational evolution. Man, this is some deep stuff. Let Ossie Davis take it away, reading from Up From Slavery, Booker T. Washington. We need to start with the foundation and not get ahead of ourselves. That's why I'm doing this today.
I had learned from somebody that the way to begin to read was to learn the alphabet, so I tried in all the ways I could think of to learn it. All, of course, without a teacher, for I could find no one to teach me. At that time, there was not a single member of my race anywhere near us who could read, and I was too timid to approach any of the white people. In some way, within a few weeks, I mastered the greater portion of the alphabet. In all my efforts to learn to read, my mother fully shared my ambition and sympathized with me and aided me in every way that she could. Though she was totally ignorant so far as mere book knowledge was concerned, she had high ambitions for her children, and a large fund of good, hard common sense, which seemed to enable her to meet and master every situation. If I have done anything in life worth attention, I feel sure that I inherited the disposition from my mother. In the midst of my struggles and longing for an education, a young colored boy who had learned to read in the state of Ohio came to Malden. As soon as the colored people found out that he could read, a newspaper was secured, and at the close of nearly every day's work, this young man would be surrounded by a group of men and women who were anxious to hear him read the news contained in the papers. How I used to envy this man. He seemed to me to be the one young man in all the world who ought to be satisfied with his attainments. About this time, the question of having some kind of school open for the colored children in the village began to be discussed by members of the race. As it was the first school for Negro children that had ever been opened in that part of Virginia, it was, of course, to be a great event, and the discussion excited the widest interest. The most perplexing question was where to find a teacher. The young man from Ohio who had learned to read the papers was considered, but his age was against him. In the midst of the discussion about a teacher, another young colored man from Ohio, who had been a soldier, in some way found his way into town. It was soon learned that he possessed considerable education, and he was engaged by the colored people to teach their first school. As yet, no free schools had been started for colored people in that section. Hence, each family agreed to pay a certain amount per month, with the understanding that the teacher was to board round, that is, spend the day with each family. This was not bad for the teacher, for each family tried to provide the very best on the day the teacher was to be its guest. I recall that I looked forward with an anxious appetite to the teacher's day at our little cabin. This experience of a whole race beginning to go to school for the first time presents one of the most interesting studies that has ever occurred in connection with the development of any race. Few people who were not right in the midst of the scenes can form any exact idea of the intense desire which the people of my race showed for an education. As I have stated, it was a whole race trying to go to school. Few were too young, and none too old to make the attempt to learn. As fast as any kind of teachers could be secured, not only were day schools filled, but night schools as well. The great ambition of the older people was to try to learn to read the Bible before they died. With this end in view, men and women who were 50 or 75 years old would often be found in the night school. Sunday schools were formed soon after freedom, but the principal book studied in the Sunday school was the spelling book. Day school, night school, Sunday school were always crowded, and often many had to be turned away for want of room. The opening of the school in Kanawha Valley, however, brought to me one of the keenest disappointments I ever experienced. I had been working in a salt furnace for several months, and my stepfather had discovered that I had a financial value. And so, when the school opened, he decided he could not spare me from my work. This decision seemed to cloud my every ambition. The disappointment was made all the more severe by reason of the fact that my place of work was where I could see the happy children passing to and from school mornings and afternoons. Despite this disappointment, I determined that I would learn something anyway. I applied myself with greater earnestness than ever to the mastering of what was in the blueback speller. My mother sympathized with me in my disappointment and sought to comfort me in all the ways she could and to help me find a way to learn. After a while, I succeeded in making arrangements with the teacher to give me some lessons at night after the day's work was done. These night lessons were so welcome that I think I learned more at night than the other children did during the day. My own experiences in the night school gave me faith in the night school idea, with which in after years I had to do both at Hampton and Tuskegee. But my boyish heart was still set upon going to the day school, and I let no opportunity slip to push my case. Finally, I won, and was permitted to go to the school in the day for a few months with the understanding that I was to rise early in the morning and work in the furnace till 9 o'clock and return immediately after school closed in the afternoon for at least 2 more hours of work. The schoolhouse was some distance from the furnace, and as I had to work till 9 o'clock and the school opened at 9, I found myself in a difficulty. School would always be begun before I reached it, and sometimes my class had recited. To get around this difficulty, I yielded to a temptation for which most people, I suppose, will condemn me. But since it is a fact, I might as well state it. I have great faith in the power and influence of facts. It is seldom that anything is permanently gained by holding back a fact. There was a large clock in a little office in the furnace. This clock, of course, all the 100 or more workmen depended upon to regulate their hours of beginning and ending the day's work. I got the idea that the way for me to reach school on time was to move the clock hands from 8:30 up to the 9 o'clock mark. This I found myself doing morning after morning till the furnace boss discovered that something was wrong and locked the clock in a case. I did not mean to inconvenience anybody. I simply meant to reach that schoolhouse in time. When, however, I found myself at the school for the first time, I also found myself confronted with two other difficulties. In the first place, I found that all the other children wore hats or caps on their heads, and I had neither hat nor cap. In fact, I do not remember that up to the time of going to school, I had ever worn any kind of covering upon my head, nor do I recall that either I or anybody else had even thought anything about the need of covering for my head. But, of course, when I saw how all the other boys were dressed, I began to feel quite uncomfortable. As usual, I put the case before my mother, and she explained to me that she had no money with which to buy a store hat, which was a rather new institution at that time among the members of my race, and was considered quite the thing for young and old to own, but that she would find a way to help me out of the difficulty. She accordingly got 2 pieces of homespun jeans and sewed them together, and I was soon the proud possessor of my first cap. The lesson that my mother taught me in this has always remained with me, and I have tried as best I could to teach it to others. I have always felt proud, whenever I think of the incident, that my mother had strength of character enough not to be led into the temptation of seeming to be that which she was not, of trying to impress my schoolmates and others with the fact that she was able to buy me a store hat when she was not. I have always felt proud that she refused.
So he always felt proud that she refused to live beyond her means, he goes on to say, and trying to, spend money she didn't have to try to impress people. And even when he was able to afford caps, from many different places, he always remembered that lesson of not going and spending beyond your means simply to fit in or to impress people. A lot of powerful lessons, man. A lot of power. Just the appetite for education, I think, was profound. And the fact that he said 70-year-olds, 50-year-olds, 5-year-olds, they're going to school Sunday, they're going to school at nighttime, they're going to school in the morning. Like, that's not the depiction that they give us of us. They give us singing and I don't know nothing about birthing no babies and happy enslaved Africans and picking cotton and people getting whipped and changing their name. I'm not saying that's not part of the story, some of it. But where's the part where we would walk? Booker T. Washington talks about his first pair of shoes being made of wood. Wooden shoes taped together. Like, we need those stories. Stories about what's it called? Flax garments that were so uncomfortable to the skin that one of his siblings did him the benefit of wearing the shirt long enough that it softened up so it didn't feel like, I guess, a porcupine, all over his flesh. Like, you got wooden shoes and flax shirts and can only go to school a couple weeks out of it. And he still became arguably the most powerful and one of the most inspiring intellectuals of the age and arguably of black history. Like, come on, man. We need to know how that happened so we could replicate it while we are in the ghettos of Baltimore, Newark, New Jersey, and Philadelphia, when we don't have anything, when nobody's expecting anything of us, when we don't have the clothes we want to get to school, and we might be embarrassed about things, when we have mothers and grandmothers who might not have went to school but for so long and might not be able to help us with our homework. We need that appetite for education. We need that ingenuity. We need that. But we got people telling us, oh, don't listen to him, he'll sell out. Because he laughed at jokes? Because he got money from those same financiers and helped to fund radical organizations. So here you are with no money to give to anybody with your mouth wide open talking about what Booker T didn't do. It's a problem. We'll go to phone lines. Henry from West Virginia, you're on the line.
Smith, Professor, thank you so much for taking my call. That was very powerful. And one thing that I took from that is determination is the key.
No, definitely.
You got to be determined about your goals, and you got to be able to focus on your goals. And you just don't let otherwise what people tell you. And we have to be very cautious when it comes to name calling. We don't think we can afford division. Our strength is in unity, and that's something that we always have to keep in mind. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Also, Denise from South Philly's on the line.
Yes, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Karen, Rapper Professor. Yeah, I just like it. Just take me back to my grandmother always telling me and my sister just to keep us grounded so we wouldn't be so spoiled about Madame Mathune by having one dress. She washed that dress out every night. She walked 5 miles back and forth each way just to go to school. She said she had that one dress. She washed it out, and she built her a college.
Oh, you saying Mary McLeod Bethune?
Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Bethune
And she told me the story, and every time we went to see, and we was like, okay, well, we got the story, man. She had one dress. She walked 5 miles each way just to go to get an education, and then she built a college for girls. I just wanted to share that.
No, I appreciate it. I appreciate you sharing. And, you know, people say that it's a similar story about that lore about Tuskegee and how far Booker T. Washington walked. And there's also a similar story about Martin Delany. You know, Martin Delany was known, you know, to walk great distances for his education as well. But, yeah, one dress, that's something. You know, it's hard to get ahead of yourself and get full of yourself when, you know, the second you get in, you got to make sure you get ready for the next day. So I think those are some of the lessons that we talked about, or that I alluded to when I was talking to the twin sisters, you know, in their creative journey today with our tour, you know, with Ellie Lou. This idea of grandparents having that ability to utilize their humble beginnings to ground the youth in an age of plenty. It's a powerful compliment. And one thing that he says is that he didn't think anybody was better prepared for certain, you know, events in history. And it made me think of the COVID crisis. Few people have this kind of experience with being relegated to their neighborhoods and to their homes and being jobless as us. We should be really understanding how to cope with this, because there's areas where a lot of people aren't working anyway. In the same way they was outside last year around this time, since pretty much a lot of people weren't working, they're not losing it. They're not spinning out of control. They're not, you know, going through major depression and anxiety, because life on certain blocks and certain projects in certain areas is very similar. And it can be used to your advantage when other people don't know how to handle being home or being out of work and all that kind of stuff. So it could be a time where you can make progress, you know, being more accustomed to certain adverse situations and circumstances. Did you hear the part that he said they found a teacher and they contributed as a community to support the teacher, and the teacher would literally do, you know, teacher days at each individual cabin. So you got people, you know, in a community, and now we got Zoom. You just cash app the teacher, and y'all just meet up every day. You can go to every cabin at the same time now with the technology. Brother X from Chicago, you're on the line.
It's me, y'all.
Hey, Brother X.
Much love and respect to you, brother, and Dr. Peterson and the family.
Brother X? We lost you, Brother X. Call us back. We'll take a break so you get some time. Call us right back, Brother X. I'll bring you right back on. Much love, much respect. We're going to bring back Brother X. Much love, That's like what's happening. They said, no Roger, no Reva, no rent. We're going to protest, get my brother back on. No, much love, brother. Just call me up, and we're going to take a quick break anyway, and then we'll have you back on. No big deal. We work it out. That's what family do. If Booker T. Washington can work it out, see how we use it? You're learning with words, y'all.
Show some love for your favorite neighborhood with Word Radio. It's the Summer of Freedom Virtual Neighborhood Love Tour. Mondays and Thursdays now through August 20th from 1 p.m. till 2:30 p.m. Shining a light on Philadelphia's neighborhoods with a focus on neighborhood history, Philadelphia's freedom fighters, and community resources that are helping to shape the city's future. Mondays with the rapping professor, Dr. Aaron Smith, and Thursdays with Andrea Lawful Sanders. It's the Summer of Freedom Virtual Neighborhood Love Tour. Mondays and Thursdays, 1 p.m. till 2:30 p.m. Exclusively on Word Radio. 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD. Streaming live on wordradio.com, the Word Radio app, and on Word TV via YouTube and Facebook. The Summer of Freedom Virtual Neighborhood Love Tour is sponsored by Wells Fargo and PICO.
Have you or anyone you know had their social media accounts hacked? Have you been targeted because you are a social justice advocate? Join UPenn's African American Resource Center and Information Security Office for a seminar on securing computers and online communities against cyber threats, Thursday, August 20th from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Registration and other information can be found on Facebook at African American Resource Center.
Part-time job, full-time hustle, all-time Shiro to all of us. You nurture, we listen. You teach, we thrive. You lift our spirits, but we've got to lay down the truth. It's time for you, our Shiro, to stretch for the stars. Start saving more for retirement now, so you can feel prepared and live your life to the fullest. Get free tips to help boost your retirement savings now at aceyourretirement.org/Shiro.
A message brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
The Source with the rapping professor, Dr. Aaron Smith. Right now on Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD. Streaming live at wordradio.com and on the Word Radio app.
You are listening to The Source. Aaron Smith, the rapping professor. Young Jordan on the board, making sure that you're not 900 AM, 96.1 FM, WRD, WRDradio.com. Listen live anytime and log on. Did we ever get Brother X back? Let me find out if my brother's back on the line so I can get him on there. Sound like he had that Nick Cannon connection. They cut him off. They came to get him. I said, what happened to my brother? Yeah, he drop squad or something. FBI was on it. I said, COINTELPRO is back. Let me stop. Happy birthday to the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Salute to everybody from the UNIA. We're going to talk a little more about Garvey before we close out the show. But first, I want to get my brother back on. Brother X from Chicago. How you doing? Brother X? Brother X.
Yeah, you got me, brother?
There you go. We got you.
All right, thank you, young fella. Brother, let me ask you this. Okay, I heard the history you spoke about with Marcus Garvey and Booker T. But what I want to know is, when did Marcus Garvey, after talking to Booker T, when did Garvey make the decision it's either Africa for us or bust? When did Garvey make that decision if he was so into what Booker T was doing here in the slave master house?
He didn't actually meet with Booker T. He came inspired in attempts to meet with Booker T, but he never got the opportunity.
He never got the opportunity to meet with Booker T.
No.
Okay, you are aware Garvey said, if we did not go back and reclaim Africa for us and the Africans, Garvey said, if we did not do that, they was going to do away with us here, and then they was going to do away with the Africans. And, brother, it is going down just like Garvey said it would.
No, I appreciate your call and your input. And actually, we have some audio queued up, Brother Jordan, right, for the 1921 speech. I just want people to hear him. But I want to make sure for the young people who might be listening today that we understand that it's not just a birthday, but he's a Jamaican political activist, Marcus Mosiah Garvey Jr., founder of the first President General of the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League, currently and most commonly known as the UNIA, which he declared himself Provisional President of Africa, ideologically a black nationalist, Pan-Africanist, and his ideas came to be known by many under the term Garveyism. Born in St. Ann's Bay, Jamaica, most people associate him with the Back to Africa movement, and mail fraud, they said, was the reason they tried to stop our brother. You know, we got to be careful with these agents and informants and infiltrators, because I don't want to get so into celebrating the greatness that I don't recognize that some of the same enemies and traps that, you know, stop the progress of many of our greatest thinkers and brightest stars are still around today. They're not just planting bricks at protests. They're not just busting out windows at the AutoZone. They're not just, let me just go ahead. Play that audio, Brother Jordan, just to give us a little taste, you know, of what galvanized people to create the largest African-American organization in the history of the country.
Fellow citizens of Africa,
I greet you in the name of the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League of the World. You may ask, what organization is that? It is for me to inform you that the Universal Negro Improvement Association is an organization that seeks to unite into one solid body the 400 million Negroes of the world, to link up the 15 million Negroes of the United States of America with the 20 million Negroes of the West Indies, the 40 million Negroes of South and Central America, with the 280 million Negroes of Africa, for the purpose of bettering our industrial, commercial, educational, social, and political conditions. As you are aware, the world in which we live today is divided into separate race groups and distinct nationalities. Each race and each nationality is endeavoring to work out its own destiny to the exclusion of other races and other nationalities. We hear the cry of England for the Englishman, of France for the Frenchman, of Germany for the German, of Ireland for the Irish, of Palestine for the Jew, of Japan for the Japanese, of China for the Chinese. We of the Universal Negro Improvement Association are raising the cry of Africa for the Africans, those at home and those abroad. There are 400 million Africans in the world who have Negro blood coursing through their veins, and we believe that the time has come to unite these 400 million people for the one common purpose of bettering their conditions. The great problem of the Negro for the last 500 years has been that of disunity. No one or no organization ever succeeded in uniting the Negro race. But within the last 4 years, the Universal Negro Improvement Association has worked wonders in bringing together in one fold 4 million organized Negroes who are scattered in all parts of the world, being in the 48 states of the American Union, all the West Indian Islands, and the countries of South and Central America and Africa. These 4 million people are working to convert the rest of the 400 million scattered all over the world. And it is for this purpose that we are asking you to join our ranks and to do the best you can to help us to bring about an emancipated race.
All right, that was Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Happy birthday to the ancestor. That was 1921. He was talking about Africa for the Africans. He was talking about the 4 million Africans at home and abroad who were united to convert the other 400 million to the understanding of the importance of African unity. And he said that they have been successful in doing what up to that point, and some would argue after, that no other organization was able to do, was to, bring this level of unity despite geography and language and religious dogma. So oftentimes, one of the greatest lessons that you can have is how people were able to do what they were able to do. And I remember Malcolm talking, at the wintry years of his life before he was assassinated, about putting religion in the closet and coming together as black people. You're not persecuted because you're a Mason or an Elk, or because you're, a Christian or a Muslim. You're persecuted because you're black. So I think if we can start where people left off. Don't be Du Bois when he was with Spingarn looking through the mail. Don't be Garvey when he was going back and forth with Du Bois. Don't be Malcolm when he was going back. Like, no. You see what they did and where they reached after, where they evolved to, where Du Bois end up. Oh, okay. Well, let me focus on that African piece. Where did Malcolm end up? Oh, let's put that aside and let's go human rights and not civil rights, and let's put that. Okay. Let's start there. That's how a baton pass works. When somebody passes you a baton, you don't go back to where they started running from and run their race too. You take the baton from where they gave it to you and you move forward. Ali from Southwest Philly, you're on the line. Ali from Southwest Philly, you're on the line. Okay, well, maybe not. Maybe we had Ali, but don't have Ali now. 215-634-8065. Again, 215-634-8065. And we got to make sure that we understand that we are not in this Hobson's choice. We are not in this catch-22. We, like so many times, black people have been in this position where it's like, you got to choose something. You don't have to choose between Garvey and Du Bois. I always say, I call it beneficial extraction. I'm going to take the best of what people have to offer. Why can't I have a Pan-Africanist consciousness and also be able to recognize the value of having a skill set that can enable me to have institutions in my community? Both could be done. I could do international business and create local institutions of higher education and vocations. Like you could do both. We need to do both, even according to what the caller said. If we're going to do something for and with Africa, we have to understand how to have our ideology right and our cultural location right. But we also have to understand how to get our GDP up. We got to understand how business works, how maritime law works. We have to understand how industry works, how finance works, even if it's just cooperative finance. When them people built Tulsa, Oklahoma, they knew how money worked now. And or if they didn't, they were figuring it out as they went along, and they figured it out pretty darn quick. So they knew what road they were on. They weren't just on the road of buying T-shirts and having rallies and giving speeches and choosing one leader over another. That's some mean girl junior high school way of applying even the fact that you read 1,000 books. You could read 1,000 books and be woefully immature and insecure and not be productive in a tangible way. You could be a black Rain Man who knows every fact in the world, but you're so nasty you can't even get along with the person who sleeps in the bed with you. So I don't care how many dashikis you got, how big your library is, how long your locks are, or what type of dogma you subscribe to. If you can't be a gentle and kind spirit, as we said in the beginning of the show, if you can't treat people right, oh, let's get back to that, like we talked about the voting and the bullying. If you can't treat people right, don't tell me what's at stake. Don't tell me who's worse. Don't tell me how black you are. Don't tell me who's your favorite black superhero, whether it's Garvey or Malcolm or I don't care about none of that if you nasty. If you nasty, you turning people off of everything that you think you want them to know about. So if you tell me you represent that and you're nasty, I'm not interested in you or that because of the way you represented it. And right now, it seems like we have a marketing strategy obstacle that we need to address openly and honestly. Because some of the most so-called woke people are some of the nastiest people that you might want to meet. And it needs to stop. And you wonder why these religious dogmatic people are getting people. They joyous. That's one of the reasons. They come up smiling, being nice to people, and they're not judging people, condemning people, and bullying people. And I'm preaching to people that I rock with. I'm telling y'all, you need to step your game up. The reason why you falling victim to the gangs and the Jehovah's Witnesses and everybody else is getting a leg up on you with influence and recruitment is because sometimes they show love, even if it's warped, perverse love in terms of the gang culture. At least they give them attention and look at them as individuals and give them some agency in the organization. Do you do the same, or are young people shut down and shut up when they join your organization because the old people don't want to move or listen or do anything different than they did for the last 40 years? Ali from Southwest, you got the last word. Oh, Reverend Joe, I'm sorry. Reverend Joe got the last word. Benediction.
And remember, when you can't, God can. When you won't, God will. I'll call you tomorrow night.
Okay, he went straight to the benediction. Shouts out to Reverend Joe. Shouts out everybody for listening. Up next, Sister Sarita with the happy hour, DJ Kayla J. And I'm going to make sure I get out of here on time to let them, just disinfect everything and set up nicely, move out the way, for the ladies and let them do what they do. But you keep it locked and stay right where you are. You're a shining star, no matter who you are. It's been a wonderful day. Shouts out to Wells Fargo, Pico, everybody that makes the whole virtual neighborhood love tour possible. Until next time, you're learning with Word, y'all.
And the sunlight hurts my eyes.